breaks through that 4 hours, remember?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
All right, cool.
Just about any survival situation. Any survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs, just a personal concern. You have your document and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is. Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You need to expect us. We're already here.
Good evening. Since 1919, the League of Lady Conspiracists has been giving advice to the public on simple measures by which the increasing menace of mind control, already so prevalent in today's society, may be thwarted. It gives me great pleasure, therefore, to present to you today the founder of the League, Miss Sylvia Stankhurst, singing for us a song which offers sage advice to the worried citizen. Sylvia's mother, the celebrated Emmeline Stankhurst, will accompany on the pianoforte.
All right, folks, it's time for Shiny Side Out with David Dunger and Becky. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mackie.
We're live from Revolution Radio Studios in Sydney. You can join us in the chat room at freedomslips.com and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out shinysideout.net for show archives, notes we paste into the chat during the show. Listen to us on FM WZZR 101.3 in Kentucky. There are so many ways to listen to us, and that is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Spreaker.com, iHeart, and Live365. You can also listen on a Grace Tabletop digital radio or driving around in a General Motors vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio. These are all revolutions in radio. The number, if you're in the United States of America, you can call in on 347-688-2902 or via Skype at Freedom Screen. Awesome show with Solaris, wasn't it, Mackie?
Always is, mate. Always is.
I know. And we are show number, what are we?
Show number 100.
100?
100, yeah.
100. Did we really do that, Mickey?
Yeah,
have we made it?
I think, look, Well, if unless we're counting wrong, right? But yes, right. I think it's true. So that close enough to it anyway. So look, it is show 100. We were meant to come to you together from one location. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we can't bring this broadcast to you from one location, but have a fallback location ready for you as well. It's my fault, personal issues that I prohibited me from traveling. Nothing serious, of course, but I promise that we will find our way together one day, because I actually haven't seen Dave face to face for a while now.
It's been some time, Mick.
I know.
This is as close as we get.
And you're a handsome man, so being in your presence would be a boon, surely.
Back at you. Hey,
right.
I wanted to just say to all those people who are catching our YouTube channel and seeing this live, for everyone who's listening via any one of the mediums we just mentioned, this is show 100. We're enjoying it. I've put some technology in place now that I can do green screen or chroma key technology, and I think it's pretty neat. So we might...
It's so high tech, man. It's so high tech.
Yeah, it is. It's high tech. And when you see some of my shots, I don't have anything to put behind me, so you'll just see a green screen. It's sort of the giveaway. But needless to say... it's good fun, and we're sort of really enjoying this new medium. Meki, I was I think we were going to just quickly do the news, and then we'll pull in Solaris. Yeah.
Correct, sir. That's correct. There's one item I would like to share with you guys very quickly, and yeah, we have Solaris for the first hour, certainly. And if she wishes to join us for longer, then of course she's more than welcome. It'd be good to get her view on things. I listen to ABC News Radio. I do listen to that on the car radio every day.
Me too.
And it's interesting, because they've got different news sources, and I'm not saying it's all true, but certainly you need a variety of different news sources, and ABC News Radio provides that 24 hours a day in Australia. It's similar, I guess, to PBS in the States in what they broadcast, and they're not really affiliated with our SBS or PBS here, but certainly enough information there. Now, there was a very interesting interview when was it? I think Thursday or Friday morning as I was driving to work. And it was with a lady, and I forget her name, but I think she was from the UN, who was pointing out what is happening at Fukushima at the moment. Now, what is happening in Fukushima at the moment is this. The Japanese are just about to move 400 tons of radioactive material, or they're intending to move that, to a secure location. This is, I think, from reactor 3. Mm-hmm. And if that goes poorly... that goes poorly, and this was admitted on the air on a public broadcasting system, if you will, not private, not on the internet, but state funded. Mm-hmm. It would be very, very bad, not just for the Japanese people and Japan itself, but rather for the entire planet. And in fact, one thing she bemoaned was the fact that Fukushima has now released 3 times more radioactive material than Chernobyl at this point. 3 times more.
Yep.
Furthermore, we've got massive fish deaths within the Pacific. We've got massive increased background radiation up and down the west coast of the North American continent. So this is not just an American problem, it's Canada and Mexico as well that are being affected, and actually goes down as far as South America, believe it or not. So this problem that Fukushima has presented us with is much, much bigger than people are letting on, or people are being told about. Naturally, I guess people don't want to panic, but just bear in mind that is true, and follow the news yourself. I would suggest not to travel to Japan in the near future, as my suggestion. I mean, you can do what you like, of course.
Sage advice.
Well, I think it's not a bad idea. Sorry, Dave, do you have something for us?
Yeah, well, I wanted to add to that, because I too listen to ABC News Radio, and one of the things that I heard them talk about on the radio, nice plug, Meki. One of the things I heard them talk about was the Snowden details. So
okay, yeah.
They had they did a what's called a live cross, but only to another reporter in a different country. He was from the BBC, so they did a live cross to a BBC journalist who was working really closely with the UK newspaper that has these Snowden documents. Remember that he gave them all to them, and then they had a court order to destroy them all. Do you remember the story?
Okay. Really?
Yep. And
no, I hadn't heard of that. Keep going, please. Yep.
Okay, well, they had a whole copy of the USB drive on a laptop, and they were court ordered to destroy it all, also under witness. So they had a witness from the US government in the basement of some building, probably the media outlet themselves, and they had to go at this laptop with a sledgehammer until it was only pieces left. Hilarious.
Okay.
Hilarious, though the person doing it made the comment to the security person standing there saying, but we've backed it up, right? Like, we're not about to get rid of evidence, information willingly, so we've backed it up. And he goes, but I'm just here to make sure you destroy it. So they've destroyed the laptop, they scooped it up into bits and took it away. That's it, done.
You mean the files are in the computer?
Yeah, well, the copy...
In the computer?
The copy wasn't. The computer said no by this stage. The computer says no. And it's really funny because he said, but we've got a copy of it. Like, as he's wielding the sledgehammer, banging this thing down, yeah? It's really funny. I think that...
Yeah, but see, the thing is... It looks good though, right? I mean, it's positive action, right? You have to realize this is all for TV, right? You don't need a sledgehammer to destroy a computer. You pass a high-powered electromagnet over it, it's all done, right?
That's right.
For a fact, I was.
but the funny part of the story is next. You think that's funny, right? Listen to this. So the reporter who was reporting on it said something really interesting. They said, Snowden is just about to release information which is world-changing. Mm-hmm. And this was, about 4 weeks ago. Right. They said, what Snowden's about to release is X. Not the actual topic, but the size of the information, thinking that all the past info has been terrible. Yep. And I thought, well, how on earth does a reporter know what Snowden in Russia is about to release? Because remember, they hold all the information.
Yes.
That means they're releasing the information. It's not Snowden at all. It's just
that makes sense, I guess.
A planned release of info. Because remember, Snowden right now, to release information, and remember he gave a copy to the Russians, so that's presumed for entry. So, because you don't pass go there, right? You don't just pass go. Monopoly term, right? And get you $200, and you've got to pay free parking. So, sorry. Today was brought to you by Monopoly, and the number 3,
and Parker Brothers, the inventors of Monopoly.
Yes, good for you, by the way. In knowing our listener base, send me a box. I like it, the Australian one. Do you know what's really funny about that was that if they know what they're about to release and they're just giving us information that is preparing us for what they're about to tell us, that means they're driving the whole show, Meki. They're driving.
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. We've always underestimated Russia for a long time. Americans have, and then globally, and Russia has always been on the edge of our awareness, behind the Iron Curtain, and always been, sort of pushed out of our awareness. Russia has got a very rich cultural and scientific life, and make no mistake, they are investigating mysteries in their own backyard much more openly and much more forcefully than the Americans admit to it, investigating theirs. It probably started to some extent with the Tunguska explosion, and then in 1934 it was Kulik who went to investigate the actual blast side of it, and then a lot of mysteries surrounding that as well. No crater and so forth. So they're a lot more open with their information than the Americans are, at least officially. And their scientists don't seem to be afraid, or don't seem to be guided as much by a knowledge filter. So I'm not surprised that the Russians, if they are in fact doing that, are dictating or somehow controlling the release of Snowden's information. Certainly to their own advantage, I would imagine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is where it becomes questionable. How would he get the word out if they didn't want them to talk about it?
Well, that's right.
So what he's done, I believe he's done this to the media. Like if you and I came across something that was extraordinary, wouldn't we just give it to the media and saying, you take care of this because my life's in danger. I'll tell you what to release.
Yep. And
they look through it and go, hey, we're on a ticket here. This is awesome. Yes, sir. We'll do what they'd be champing at the bit to release it all whenever they want. But I think they've got some sort of control. I think he lost control once he made the data public. But not only that. I
mean, he wouldn't have much. I mean, he's between a rock and a hard place, right? He's not really.
Does the person exist?
Right. Oh well.
That's my next question. Yes, there's a photograph of him, right? Of the person. It's a photograph. Just like we saw Kim Jong-un. Yeah. We didn't see him during that North Vietnam threat to the rest of the world with the missiles and everything. He didn't make a statement. Suddenly there was just, some press about him doing it. Yeah.
Right.
So we didn't see him actually do it. That's the manufactured news component of it. And I think maybe he doesn't actually exist. Maybe the information is real and they're just prepping us for all of this other stuff. And maybe they just found, maybe their advertising and marketing gurus decided this was great. Remember, Milli Vanilli, right? Milli Vanilli, I'm going to put it back to this. And please hate me for it, right? Because they pretended to be the artists that were actually singing as pretty people dancing. Yeah, that was the whole go. Once they were found out to be only the pretty people dancing and that was actually musicians backstage singing it, that changed people's view. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was one of the landmark cases where people were actually found out to be fraudsters and the whole thing was hooey. It's bad enough that an artist that you like who actually sings the songs in a studio is lip syncing at the concert for whatever reason. Yeah, that's bad enough, let alone being the person you actually think it's supposed to be isn't. So I think we know that the military control the media. We know that there's no way the government wouldn't have their hand on it, right? If this whole thing isn't fabricated, I'll be a monkey's uncle. I don't even believe the guy's real. Have you seen an interview with him? Has there been one? Is there any recent press? So, it makes me question the whole thing. It really does. And, that's where I stand on it. It looks like we've got some data problems at Meki's end. Let's just hope it is only Meki at his end. I wanted to say to all the listeners, we're celebrating, this is show number 100 once again. And Meki and I are still surprised that we're this far in. And coming up in the show, we'll be talking about how everything connects together. But before then, we'll be having a great chat with another Freedom Slips host, Solaris, and she's just hanging on right now, and we've only got, I think, one more topic to go through, and then we'll be right on our way. So, still lingering from the big deep freeze in the Midwest. A lot of us have been talking about this in off air. A lot of the radio hosts have been talking about this to see where we can get to. And I came up with this thing that I think possibly possibly the deep freeze is a HARP attack from another country. Possibly Russia or China. Or India. That was posed today. We don't know. Why would India do it? I think they'd be mad to do it. Maybe they were just fiddling around with the technology. You know how it goes in the back room at the tech lab? Oops. Was that a good oops? I don't know. Sometimes it isn't a good oops. But that's the point, right? If the US can say they've done it and it just looks like a little array of aerials, maybe someone else has done it too. And I really think that there's something in that. I think that it's quite possible. You know, there's 3 or 4 countries now twiddling the dials, trying to make weather everywhere. And that, you know, if that's the case, I think we're all in for some stress. It's certainly cheaper than sending troops and military weapons in. You know, think about a missile is a couple of $1 million each. So that would be much
Dave, can you
cheaper.
hear me?
Yes, I can, sir.
I think I'm back.
You are back, indeed. I was just saying that
Beautiful.
the deep freeze in the Midwest in the US could very well have been a HARP attack from a different country.
Yeah.
So if you think about,
absolutely.
If you think about,
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, these days. Yep. Hello.
Yep. So if you think you're back now, man. We've got some data bandwidth issues going on, Mecky. If you can hear me, possibly turn off the live stream.
Good.
Yeah. You're sort of coming in a little bit. Oh, yes, of course. Justin Time, our producer, has just reminded me that if you're sitting in front of your PC right now and not listening to this on terrestrial radio, you're not driving around in your car, and you're not out and about using a portable device like a mobile phone, a phablet, or a tablet, maybe if you're sitting in front of your PC and you're enjoying what you're hearing, you might want to see our video broadcast, which, if you jump into the chat room, is available right there to click on. You'll see the people are discussing it. It's pretty cool. Look, it's early days for us and what we're doing, but it's fun for us, and it's our show number 100. So we're just creeping into this new technology. Yeah, one day at a time. I'll see if I can get Mecky back on. It looks like he's having all sorts of problems there, and I know he's been so interested to interview Solaris. So look, I might, with no further ado, I might welcome Solaris to the call, and we'll just chat while Mecky comes in.
Hi, David.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good. I can't wait for Mecky to fix up his data issues.
Yeah, I noticed there was some technical issues. Well, you heard my glitch, or maybe you didn't at the beginning of the show with mine.
Oh, I caught the last half.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we lost power. He lost power at his house, my guest, and
oh no.
So only for a little bit. That's fine.
Oh, goodness me. So I have in front of me, and I'm going to plug it because there's no reason why we can't plug this kind of stuff. This is Eye of the Remote, a disclosure in covert technology. I'm holding a DVD up to the camera right now. Hope I'm not getting too much flaring. There we go. Solaris, can you, for the listeners, I know you've got your own show, but I'm not sure if you've had any real opportunity to tell people who you are, what you used to do, and how you got to be where you are.
Okay. Well, I'm still me, and I'm a published author. Where do I start? I have an extensive background in so many different areas, but I'm a published author, a clairvoyant, remote viewer, mystical scientist. I have an extensive background in healing arts, martial arts, and I've done all sorts of interesting things. And I was inducted into a covert program in 2004, where I decoded a lot of technology associated with synthetic telepathy, psychotronic programming, remote viewing, mind control tactics, and remote influence.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in there. So synthetic telepathy.
Mm-hmm.
I know what being a telepath is all about, but synthetic, does that mean it's like machine driven?
Correct. And basically, it's artificial intelligence. It's an interaction between the target and artificial intelligence in an underground communication system. And usually there's a live handler involved with that technology, and it integrates onto the neural circuitries as a feedback communication system. So it's live feed real time with a live handler and an artificial intelligence program, which is kind of training you as you go with visuals, programs, numbers, codes. At least it did with me, and of course the live handler who was controlling the event itself.
Oh wow,
yeah, it's pretty intense.
So I've got experience with AI bots that you can communicate with, and this is at tech conferences where you have to guess whether it's a real person or not, and you can't tell. So
nice.
the artificial, to a certain degree, right? Of course, but from that point of view, is the AI? Does it have? Is it programmed with an agenda? Does it have a goal? What is it all about?
The program is designed to basically program your mind with a communication system. Now, when I was originally interacting, it was a live handler real time. So I had a real person, and then it was integrated onto the artificial intelligence communication system. And what that does is it creates a feedback of programming that creates an alternate conversation sometimes, or it will direct you with numbers, codes, visuals. Pattern recognition is very big. And so far as the sex goes, it was more my live handler and then the interface of the communication system, which was more of a reflection of his program. So I would say it was my live handler and then a mirror of his energetic associated with the artificial intelligence. So he was what the original programmer associated with the technology when I was first tagged with the communication system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I haven't experienced your artificial intelligence over there, so I'd like to check it out if I ever go to one of those events.
Mm-hmm. It's extraordinary, and there's been some adoption of that with fake personas. It looks like we're live back with you again, Meki.
I know. Hello.
Hello.
So it looks like Facebook fake accounts have been set up with a very similar thing. I've seen it on IRC, where IRC have still got a bit of data throughput issue with Meki there. Meki, turn off your YouTube stream if you're watching the YouTube stream at the same time, and let's see how we go with that. So there's the competition was originally. There was originally a competition to decide who made the best AI from a conversational point of view, and it would generate a whole bunch of personas based on the person that they were talking to. So they would collect interests about you, looking through Facebook records, and then be able to chat to you about it. And I'm really interested in not in the development of an AI, because I think that can go all the wrong way. But within certain controls, I think that might work. But what was the goal for it? I mean, ultimately, what was why? The goal, I think, was why would they choose you? And why would they choose you? Do you think?
Yeah, that's what my handler asked me live in real person out on Maui. I think a lot of it has to do with my abilities, because I have a very spiritual background and I'm very good at remote viewing naturally. I'm a very good clairvoyant, and I have an extensive healing background plus martial arts black belt. So I think that I had all the components for a good candidate for the program itself. And when I was recruited, it was very easy for me to communicate with the synthetic telepathy. It was because I'm naturally telepathic. All they did was hijack my electromagnetic field and interface the communication system onto my neural circuitry with a live handler to a point where I was easily, accessible, and we were able to communicate back and forth. I mean, this was real-time live feed communication, just like you and I are talking, except it's quiet. It's on a frequency which is encrypted to a point where no one else can hear the communication system but me and my handler. And I think I was a good candidate for it. I made it work. The problem I had was they were trying to program me. They were trying to, basically anything that I was doing, they were trying to negate. So to such an extent, they were trying to brainwash me, and I didn't accept that. I didn't want the remote tactical abuse, which dealt with a lot of different things. I mean, I'm not going to get real graphic with it, but it's sexual remote manipulation. It's it's a lot of things that can even kind of have a psychotronic flair to it. But it's all done by live feed, real time, and initiated by a handler. So a lot of different things to it. It's very complex, and I write about it in my book, Eye of the Remote Black Operations in Areas Beyond 52, because it covers so many different levels. But it's not a positive, or at least they weren't using it as one.
So, but the fact that you were resisting it, you didn't want it, yeah?
No.
And you recognized it in operation.
Right. What happened was I was very open to whatever the communication was, but I was laughing when they first tagged me, and I said, "Well, this is man-made." I was actually just making a joke of it. I said, "I can tell this is man-made." Point blank. It wasn't a true celestial communication or a natural telepathic communication, and they knew it too. And that's when the war really started, because my life handler said, "Well, I'm the angel of death," and I said, "Well, so am I." And I started laughing, and then we really got back and forth with the communication system. And then they started throwing a lot of psychotronic visuals. Then we started doing remote viewing. There was a lot of pattern recognition, numbers and codes, and I was mimicking. I was actually learning their program, and don't ask me why, but I think it's because I was so in between the spaces of my handler, and he had so much control over me remotely with my body. I mean, literally my vitals, my physical body. It's like being taken over, almost like an electronic possession, except you have your live handler seeing through your eyes and literally experiencing you. So I was literally being programmed by that whole system. But when it started getting torturous and negative and abusive, I had to back it off, and I had to fight it, and that's what I did.
Wow. So a live handler would be described as maybe like a remote control person, someone that's controlling you remotely.
Someone who has access and a clearance to the technology itself, and someone who's experienced in doing it. And my handler was definitely experienced in doing it. He actually confirmed with me in person that he had what we called a special hearing, because it's what we call a hearing. It's a different kind of hearing. No one else can catch it.
Yep, I understand. So, what agency were you ever able to identify which agency that was performing this?
Well, it's a black budget program. I know that. It goes beyond regular government organizations. I'm sure they all have their fingers in the pie. We've got DARPA, we've got CIA, FBI, NSA. You can go down the list. But what we're dealing with is a covert militarized program in the underground areas that's developed an artificial intelligence program merged with psychotronics and remote viewing and a live handler and targets like myself who get programmed. So, and also there's a paper trail. And if anybody reads my books, obviously it deals with a high-profile band and a person who is working for them and has a background in a very extensive background in classified and more than classified technology. So it's all confirmable. I mean, there's nothing that I've written about that isn't fact.
Yeah.
And I've actually done the checking myself as well to back Solaris up here. And some of the technologies are coming to light now. Of course, what Solaris has experienced is quantum leaps ahead of what we can publicly find out about. But I would suggest that the acronym agencies probably aren't even aware of this technology. I think what you need to do is you need to go back to the end of World War II, at the very least, to understand where this technology enters the United States. Yes, with the Nazis, unfortunately, in Operation Paperclip, and the black budget. The
underground and mind control, yeah.
Yeah, correct. You absolutely. And the Germans
break
were very
it up
much
a little bit necky for me anyway.
Right. All right, and it's the fluoride in the water, which again, it's all linked, it's all connected, and that's really why we wanted you on the show, Solaris, because what you've experienced, continue to experience, in fact. And your gift, which I would like you to speak about as well, if that's okay, is something that people don't know about or dismiss. Can you still hear me? Okay, I hope the connection is.
Yeah, you were breaking up a lot. I don't know if David can hear you any better than I can.
I can. It sounds like Mecky's okay at this end.
Okay, so that's weird.
Somebody's in the. It's not the first time.
Well, you can be an interpreter, David, because I'm having a hard time. But go ahead, Mecky.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, I would like again, if you can't hear it perfectly, Solaris, I would like you to talk about your gift specifically, and just also the fact that it leaves you vulnerable to these kinds of attacks, because it's a gift and is being exploited for all the wrong reasons by these people that don't have an understanding of what it actually means. They just want to use it for their own purposes. And then secondly, maybe if you can talk
agree.
about some of the
well,
yeah, go on. Yep.
yeah. If you want me to go back into my spiritual
Yes.
background. Okay,
Yes.
I'll let you talk, but you were breaking up there, so I wasn't sure if you want me to intercept that now. But anyways, I have an extensive healing background. I've gone through a lot of initiations, and I've worked on myself for a very long time. Plus, I've taught DNA activation and work on my what I call my light body. So I established a very high frequency and vibrational signature associated with Merkaba. Now, anybody who knows meditation or consciousness understands the Merkaba, which is the vehicle of light. It's also a multidimensional vehicle that allows you to move through on a consciousness level to become very expanded as a being, as a physical being. And that's where I was at. I actually have a regular Merkaba signal that enhances and pulses with the universal celestial heartbeat and pulse. Now, I know that sounds very esoteric, but that's the energetic that they tagged when I was interacting with them. And they tagged that signal, my natural signal, which is based on spirituality, higher consciousness, and Merkaba, and interfaced it onto their communication system. Now, to this day, and it's been 10 years, I have a radio signal that's an anomaly signature in my embedded in my body that moves to music on radios. It interacts with elements. It's integrated into my neural circuitry, and it cannot be disabled. So that's what they did to it. And no, they don't understand consciousness, and they try to control consciousness. And I think one of the reasons they tag that is because it's so unique, and it's not something you'll see when you do a scan on a regular person. Not that I'm anything spectacular, but I've done a lot of spiritual work on myself, and it was obvious to me that they noticed that when they were doing a scan on me.
Mm-hmm. And this is really the important thing, guys. So Solaris experiences go beyond the physical, beyond the flesh robot, if you will, that we led to believe we are. We're not. We're so much more. And it is this Merkaba, I guess, could you conceivably call it a cocoon around yourself? Would that be fair to say?
It's like that. It's a reinforced geometric design of a Merkaba field, which is basically once you establish this unique signature and pulse, you're able to navigate through many levels of consciousness. And also, when you really get it amped up, you can actually bilocate and phase shift. Now, I didn't reach that point, but I was certainly getting to a very high level of consciousness before they tagged me. So yeah, it can be like a cocoon because it's a shield for you. And but thank you. Sorry, thank you for pointing out the travel component as well, because this is another important component part of what we are trying to bring to the people here as well. We're not locked to this dimensional coincidence that we call reality. People are trying to keep us here. Yes, that's probably what happens. But certainly people like yourself, Solaris, and that's why it's critical that people understand their own capabilities as well. I'm not saying everybody has got an easy time of reaching this level of spirituality, and some people are more gifted than others, and certainly you are. And unfortunately, that's why you become a target. It is what singles you out for those that wish to do harm, I guess. But yeah, look, it's interesting. If you can just describe maybe how can I put this best, the connection or the relationship that this world has with the other realities, with the other dimensional realms, with the other levels of consciousness. What is your experience in that field? Well, insofar as that goes, I mean, I've talked about this earlier, but we're multidimensional beings. So we have soul extensions, which are part of us that exist simultaneously in other worlds and other universes. And I know that sounds like a big, vast thing, but really there is no time in the illusion of time or space. So you're dealing with consciousness in motion. And so we are very complex beings, without a doubt, and we are very multidimensional. So as above, so below, very much so. So what you do here on this world can affect other realms and other universes, and also the parallel realities you exist on simultaneously. And also it can go opposite too. So what I've done as a soul extension in other universes and star system can affect me here on this earth as well. So what I've learned to do is pull in the higher source energy from that soul extension and bring it onto the earth plane so that I'm able to navigate easier in more alignment with grace, opposed to being affected with all this psychotronics and attacks from covert assault weapons, which of course, they do it deliberately. You're right. They're trying to control consciousness, and they don't want people to ascend out of their own little linear world.
This is amazing, Solaris. We've never met.
But you feel like I have.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we have no agreed upon agenda. I mean, we just happened to meet on Freedom Slips. I agree with you. We probably have met elsewhere Potentially, but certainly not in this particular reality matrix, physically, face to face. And everything you've said there, right? Everything you've just pointed out is very much the conclusion that we have reached in our hypothesis, and this is what today's show is about. Is the hypothesis that we put forward, and you're right. And it's actually really a relief to hear someone else speak about it that way, rather than just having someone in my head speak about it, like me, right? Constantly. And other researchers have come to very similar conclusions to the points you've just made. I mean, Dave, it's astonishing. I mean, we've had a number of people here with us, and the ones that are more, I guess, spiritually inclined, they're very much along the same lines as Solaris is. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, completely. And it's like a coming together of people with like minds.
Yeah.
It really is. And without this filter, the filter of everyone, the funnel, it's like a funnel, and everyone's come together. And I've seen this in the last, 18 months? Really? It's like a magnet, like a moth to a flame.
There are a lot of things that had to happen for us all to get together in this particular forum, and the other hosts as well, plus the guests and so forth. And it's a fantastic outlet for this kind of thinking, which I think is very necessary. And you just said a very important thing, Solaris, and if I can ask you about this in more detail, it'd be great. You mentioned ascension, right? And our, I guess, the human ability to transcend this world, this reality, and ascend to something. Let's call it higher, because I think it is higher. It's of a lighter fabric. It's of a higher energy frequency, I think. What is your understanding of the higher places?
Well, the higher places are more refined, for sure. They're not as dense. When the thing is with the ascension is that at the cellular level, what you're doing is it's a transfiguration at the atomic cellular level through vibration and frequency. Now, in the ancient mystery schools, they always taught about vibration and frequency changing and altering reality, and that was something that was kind of lost throughout the centuries. However, those of us who have been incarnated here before, I'm sure you guys have been here, have it in our cellular codes and structures to be able to activate that through various forms of mystical practices. So you have the capabilities to do this. And what it means to ascend is you can actually take your body with you. What you're doing is you're changing your DNA, you're altering the DNA through higher consciousness, and you're ascending into light body levels to a point where you hit Merkaba. And then after Merkaba, you keep going to higher ascended levels, which means you're able to navigate in any universe and star system, but you can do it through consciousness and motion, and you can take your body with you. And I know that sounds like something really out in sci-fi, but it's really just like time traveling, literally. So you're taking your body with you as you navigate.
You're right, Solaris. Again, you've made a very pertinent point just there as you were concluding what you were saying. It sounds like sci-fi. Well, let's take a step back, right? Now, most people would agree with you and say, oh, this is outlandish. I will laugh at that, and I can't believe it because it just doesn't fit into my world picture. Who is giving us this world picture? Who has conditioned us to believe what we believe? Someone has.
Yep.
We didn't make it up all ourselves. So some of the beliefs, or most of the belief systems that we are faced with, were here before we came along. So we've been taught a certain perception of reality, and we've been taught to laugh at things exactly like that. And I think there's a very good reason we've been taught that, because they're afraid, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there's programming, which is what they do, and then there's cellular memory, which is what we have. And it's two different components. And their programming cannot change that cellular memory. It cannot alter that. That was a given. That's kind of a blessing for all of us, because we have the memory and the archives within us.
Yeah. Again, you just give me all the you give me all the big words. The archive, right? The akashic record, even I guess the universal memory.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Hey,
so and guys, bear with us. We've spoken about this before. Solaris mentions these things all the time. This is really important that you get these concepts and break out of your box. We're gonna go into the concept of the box as well a bit later. You are kept in this place and shown a puppet show on the wall. I mean, only shadows of a puppet show. I will post the cave allegory of Plato in the chat in a little while. you that's what you think reality is. It's not. It is not. We dismiss our dreams. Don't dismiss your dreams. That's when a lot of stuff happens, guys. All right. Don't dismiss your daydreaming either. Don't dismiss your fantasy or your imagination. Don't dismiss your children when they tell you something. Look at animals. Cats and dogs. Look at cats and dogs. They stare off into space. They're looking at something. You can't see it. Babies do the same thing. Everything around you is tricking you into dismissing what is really there, right? And people like Solaris who have a gift, I know that it runs in Dave's family. Certainly his mother had it. I don't want to overstep my bounds, but I think that's true, Dave.
It's true.
My family, my grandmother, my auntie, and going back further in time, there is that as well. I'm drawn to the tarot. Never had any formal training, but the things that I've seen have scared me so much I've stopped doing the tarot ever since I saw the death of someone, and then it happened, and so that's not something I'm going to do anymore. But the point is, there are these things that aren't explicable by science. You can't use scientific method to explain these things, and that's been my point all along as well, that we need something new. We need, maybe intuition needs to take over. Intuition, where you just know the right thing. You just know what to do intuitively. Right? We connect with a greater existence, and intuitively we will do the thing that is necessary, or as people like to say these days, the needful thing. So, Solaris, do you find that when you open yourself up to, I guess let's call it as a cliche, the cosmos, things happen, right? And connections are made for you in some extent. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a nice harmonic flow of higher consciousness. There's no drama, there's no density, there's no chaotic energies. It's all associated with higher self, oversoul, superconscious mind. And that's where you need to navigate, or anybody needs to navigate, is that higher realm, instead of all this debris that we're constantly being subjected to. And it takes discipline. But I mean, that's where I love to be. But when I was hit with the program, they were trying to divert my thoughts to a point where they were trying to basically label everything I was looking at. It was absolutely horrific. The first few years of the program, and it was consistent, mind you. This wasn't something that was just a few hours a day. This was 24/7, and it was in your face, live feed, real time with a real handler, and it went on for years and years and years and years and years, and I had to testify about it. So it was very ugly. So I will say, to navigate to higher levels of consciousness, that's what got me through all this, was to stay focused on universal energies and not be pulled into the lower things.
I have a question, Solaris. This comes from Jerry B. He says, does Solaris still communicate with the handler, and has she learned how to defend herself from attack?
Yes, I have learned how to defend myself from attack very well. And what can I say? But also my handler, insofar as that goes, there's an anomaly signature that they've created that was encrypted back in 2004. I have not been able to disable it, but I am not being controlled or programmed. Cool. But they can screw with me if they want to hit me with a psychotronic assault. They have not, as far as I can tell. I think once in a while I'll get hit with some weird anomaly energy, but usually I'm pretty fortified to kick it out quickly, and I understand what it is because I know the tactical hardware. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that anomaly signature, I mean, it's stuck. I mean, I have it. It's not going anywhere.
And if you guys don't quite understand what Solaris is talking about, I do urge you to read her, not read her. I mean, read her books, yes, but watch her documentary, okay? Eye of the Remote. And there's a gentleman there that actually measures Solaris on camera. You can watch it. It might be clearer if you see it, right? It's a signal, let's call it. Okay, it's a signal within Solaris that is being picked up, but the signal is obviously projected or broadcast into you. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah, it actually is. It's a transmission and a receiver. It does both. And like I said, it was my original Merkaba signal that they hijacked, and then they tagged it onto their communication system. But what it does, and the things that it's very intelligent. That's what I can tell you that much. It just does things that they're wild. But I've gotten used to it, and that's almost scary because it's kind of been calibrated to me, and it's still an anomaly, but it's still kind of like part of me now. So I'm kind of a mix. I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's a little bit like a toothache that is not really agonizing, but it's sort of throbbing in the back of your jaw, right?
Well, you know what I've noticed is that it takes away from my celestial energy. It pulls on my field. It's an anomaly that really doesn't belong there, that they did deliberately. and that I've had to deal with, and I've had to calibrate myself for years and years. And I did talk to some developers, and one developer in particular of the psychotronic programming and technology, and I got a lot of good information from him. So I'm very clear. I mean, we have patents on this technology, and then there's a lot of things that people don't understand and know about. But if you dig deep enough, believe me, you're going to find the information. And yes, it's easy to hijack an electromagnetic field. Anomaly signatures make it even more difficult because what I have to hijack an aura is one thing, but then they're tagging with a communication system in a field, and they have a signal encrypted, and it's hard to disable that. So I've learned to deal with it. That's basically all I can do right now.
Can I ask, is it sapping energy from you? Is it?
Well, I think originally it was. Yeah, go ahead, Becky.
No, that was my question. That's it.
Okay. Well, actually, in the beginning, I think it was more in balance with me, but that's because I was really fortified. When they hit me, I was at the peak of my life. So I would say that then it was just an enhancement to my own design. But after the years and years and years of this torturous avenue, I feel like it's bled my energy field a lot. And I don't know if it's that healthy for me. And I've said that before. I'm really not convinced that it's doing anything positive for my health at all.
Right.
So, yeah.
Can I ask, I mean, this... Yeah, I mean, I'm always worried, no, not worried, but I'm always curious about motivations, obviously, right? Now, what do you think is the fundamental motivation? I mean, I understand why people want to control other people. I understand it's a power thing, but specifically people with your gift, and you're not the first person I've heard about or spoken to that had, I think yours is probably the most horrific experience that I've come across, but people have told me about other things, and I've looked at MK Ultra and the people involved there, and other mind control experiments. What is the motivation, though, for the people perpetrating it? I mean, because it's evil. I can't use another word for
evil.
it. You know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the motivation was, for some reason, I think they were amused, actually. I thought it was, I could see that they were entertained by it, okay? That's one thing. Another thing is it works really well. I was very good at the synthetic telepathy and the communication with my live handler, and that's big. I mean, when you can communicate with somebody without a cell phone or a radio, or anything else, and just work with the communication system, yeah, that's pretty good if I can do it. So I can understand that. So I think partially it was just running me through tests, and then their own sick issues that they were just wanting to dominate, control, and manipulate. And so far as the anomaly signature with the music and stuff that bounces onto the, basically if I turn on a radio, I'll hear the music bouncing through my body. I mean, it's like, but it's not like an amplification. It's the signal will start to dance to it, and then it will start to interact, and then that goes on and on with other directions too. By the way, I won't get too specific with it, but it's kind of very strange, to say the least. But there's a lot they've done, and I think that it's very disrespectful to the spirit, to the soul, to higher consciousness, and it's used for programming people like Manchurian candidates. If I was a flaky person, if I was psychologically unbalanced, I would be a basket case. But I'm very solid. They hit the wrong person with the technology. That's the bottom line. I can ride this out. I can do it, but
And I want to just quickly say just how incredible that is, because you're right. Cases that I've seen, people have become unhinged. There was a case of I don't want to get the name wrong. Arizona Wilder, I think it was. And she's not doing very well either. She's not doing well at all, and she was subjected to a whole bunch of other things as well. It's one thing to be experiencing it; it's another thing to coming out the other side, like yourself, I guess. Well, not coming out yet, but certainly finding the strength to live your life in spite of what is happening. People say the best revenge is to live your life well.
I think that was part of it. I wasn't going to let them take me down. I was determined to get taken out by the program, and I was very stubborn about it.
And that's brilliant. And this fortitude of spirit is really quite amazing. So the more I read about you and your background, the more not so well, I guess, surprised to some extent that someone can withstand that much. Constantly the onslaught, and I know in your life it has caused a great commotion and upheaval, and it's the thing is this, though, and I know you've experienced this as well, Dave, and I would like to hear your opinion, Solaris. People around you, and this is really the key thing here, people around you that are not attuned to these things have a hard time understanding what is happening. How best to communicate to those people, do you think?
Insofar as the technology goes, or just regular atmospheric conditions?
You actually experienced this. I mean, these are experiences that most people in the world just can't comprehend. They don't
Breaking
get
up,
it.
Mikey, for me anyway.
Oh, sorry, Dave. If you can repeat my question, if you can hear me. So the question is, how would one make people around oneself understand the problems that you're faced with? I mean, they're not experiencing it. They probably think, what's going on?
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah, and you know what? Had I not been tagged with this communication system, I wouldn't have believed it either, to be honest. I never realized that this type of technology existed. I did my own thing with my holistic side and my spiritual path and really didn't have any interest in covert technology. I was forced to delve into it because of what happened to me. So I would say for people who don't believe, I can't force people to believe anything. But the bottom line is do the math, do the research, and definitely look into technology. It exists, and people are being calibrated for a form of synthetic telepathy already, even with the deployment of regular iPhones. People are subliminally getting programmed already. And I'm sure at some point in the continuum, this is all going to hit mainstream. By that time, they'll clean out all the bugs. So it's not going to be this horrific thing they did to me, which means somebody's made an awful lot of money at my expense as a test pilot. I'll tell you that point blank.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
I know
it's annoying.
I know that, say, Bill Gates, for instance. Bill Gates, at his house, each visitor fills out or used to fill out a questionnaire. That's probably already automatically determined now just from your Facebook account. But what music you like, what artwork you like, etc., blah, blah, blah. When you get to the house, this was advertised. When you get to his house and you walk around within the house, all the artwork changes just to your liking. You personally only hear the music that you've chosen, and no one else can hear it. This is at his house. So I knew this back in 2003, I think it was, that he had this technology at his house. Now, this is, someone with access to it, yeah? They've got access to the technology. He could make whatever he wanted, but what he chose? He chose to do this for himself and for his guest. And when you leave, you no longer hear that stuff. Now, this is just an extension of a project like that, where you target a bull. Where do you think that the future lies with you? What do you think your future is?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I'm not in prison. They tried to set me up and burn my life. Literally, I had to go through hell and back to even establish some kind of a life again. So, they took my marriage away. They took my life away, my career, a lot of things were taken from me back in 2004, and I've never been able to get those back. So, as a martial artist and everything that I've achieved, I'm obviously still that. But insofar as my career and my profession, everything was erased. I had to start from zero again. And so I don't know where the next 10 years is taking me, quite honestly. I'm refining what I have as technology. I'm owning what I have right now because I'm not letting myself become a guinea pig for anybody. So right now, as far as I'm concerned, this technology is mine. Whatever they've given, or I don't say they've given to me, but whatever I have embedded, I'm going to work with it and find the right people. And believe me, I've had some strangers come up to me here and there, and I don't want anything to do with them. So I'll know the right people when I meet them. But it's not anybody who's contacted me recently.
Huh.
That's where I'm heading. And I'm writing my books. I'm an author, so I'm still writing my books. I'm almost finished with my science fiction book, and then I'm continuing on with an Eye of the Remote series. So I'm still moving on with technology, but I'm taking it to a very different level. I'm taking it to a level of higher consciousness and really reflecting on the positives opposed to the negatives.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We've only got a few minutes before the top of the hour.
Nope.
Mecky, do you have any more questions, Meg?
I've got a million questions. but I know we're coming to the we're coming to the break. But I do want to continue speaking with you, if that's okay.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on tonight, and happy 100th anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we didn't think we. Actually, I'm astonished. It really surprised me. 100 is a lot. So today's show is essentially around bringing all of the threads together. And thank you, Solaris, for lending your perspective, which is extremely helpful. So it's not just Dave and I, talking about things which people may or may not believe, but it's good to have someone that experiences certain of these things firsthand and has certain gifts. Dave, of course, has different experiences altogether. Again, bringing it all together into one thread is not as easy as it might seem. We will spend some part of the show, though, to put it into perspective for you guys. It is a very large universe, and there's no such thing as a disconnected event. This is really the key thing here. Everything is connected. There are no coincidences the way we understand them. And if something happens, it happens for a reason. And I always laugh at people that look at one mystery and investigate that, and then another group looks at another mystery, and never the twain shall meet. If you're a Yeti hunter, you're probably not interested in UFOs, and if you're interested in dimensional travel, you probably don't want to hear about the Loch Ness monster. But the truth is that you must take everything and try to make sense of it. I just before the break, before we're going to break, I would like to quote from The Matrix, and I urge you all to cultivate the splinter in your mind, the thing that makes you listen to Freedom Slips, the thing that makes you read the books that are dealing with these subject matters. It is the splinter in your mind that doesn't let you rest, that tells you something is wrong. Okay, that's what I want you guys to do. And we will definitely come back after the break. I don't know, Dave, are we having a break at...
Well, there it is, right there. I'd like for everyone just to hold on to this short station break. We'll see you in a minute.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, those phone numbers, well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
What do you think it is? I don't know.
Welcome. Now, there more, gentlemen.
Join me, Joe Kiernan, Dr. J, every Sunday from 10 p.m. Eastern to midnight for Researchers on a Mission Radio. We will be interviewing guests in ufology, experts on the paranormal, and stories from you, the listener. Every Sunday, 10 p.m. in Studio B. Join us for some amazing conversations and edge-of-your-seat true thrillers.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Studio B, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday nights. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Hi, this is Bo.
And this is Rocco.
And the Bo and Rocco Show is here to offer insight into legal and lawful remedies. Our goal is to remain free and help others remain free in an ever-increasing police-like state. With the help of our guests, we try to answer questions such as what went wrong and what can we do about it.
So tune into Revolution Radio at www.freedomslips.com Wednesday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to listen to the Bo and Rocco Show.
You don't need to expect us.
We're already here.
Revolution Radio. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And you're back with Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. That's pretty impressive, actually. Since it is listener-funded radio, guys, and if you like what you hear, any of the shows, in fact, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button. It's on the site support page, and it's on the left in the chat. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run this station. It actually does. There's no Coca-Cola sponsorship here. Whoops, I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, so it is you who determines the content in a way, right? And I'd like to say hello to all of the new listeners we have today, and we are glad to have you on board, especially on this, very momentous anniversary show, and we're halfway through show number 100, and we are speaking with Solaris, one of our esteemed co-hosts on freedomslips.com. Right, right back into the swing of things, guys. Thank you for sticking around. And Solaris, if I can ask you, and this is something we ask most people as well, when did you first know that you were not like other people, or maybe you had certain gifts that other people might not have? When did that become clear to you?
Pretty much when I was younger. I'd say when I was a young girl. I was always very, very psychic, and it occurred to me that other people weren't like that. However, my mother was very psychic and my grandmother, so I understood later on that that was all part of that lineage, I believe, and also part of our celestial heritage.
Okay, and this is actually something that we found. I mean, Dave, I think it was similar for you as well when it was quite when you were young, right? Same for me. So it seems to be a common theme that you have this early experience. I think I spoke about mine. Remember, Dave, I was under a table. I must have been 5-6 years old, maybe younger, and for just an instant, everything made sense. I only remember the feeling of everything making sense, but it's almost the universe opened itself up and goes, well, this is what it is, and it was almost laughably simple. I mean, I can only remember the feeling of laughably simple. I have no idea what it's all about now, but certainly it's an experience that changed me at that early age. And this is something to our listeners as well. There, don't feel like you have something wrong with you, or you don't fit in. That's good. Different is good. Different is what we need, because if you're the same, we're not going anywhere. The human race has never been moved by people that are the same. It's only been moved by people that are different. Okay, that goes out to everybody who feels different and bullied and maybe not part of a group, misunderstood. That's okay. It's okay to be different. This is what I wanted to shout out there. What are your thoughts on being different, Solaris?
I believe the same thing Becky does. I think it's very important that people are unique and individual and enhance their abilities and gifts, whether that's psychic or, artist or musician, whatever it is that they have. They should be, following spirit without hesitation is the motto. I mean, literally just go with it, go with the higher octaves and become what you were meant to be, because we're all unique and individual. I mean, we can work as a hive collective, but we can still remain in singular consciousness and contribute to each other. Like different components to a symphony. So I really believe that. I think Mecky's hit it spot on.
I like your analogy there. Different components of a symphony. That's beautiful. That's really nice, actually.
Thanks.
And again, it's a music thing, and I'm not that musical myself, but I know Dave is, and I know most of the guys on Freedom Slips, most of the hosts are quite musical, right, Dave? I mean, you certainly have a very strong musical background. I think that's also an important thing in music. I believe, and this is just me once again, I believe that music or harmonies or such in the next layers of existence and the higher layers of existence are as prevalent as air is here. I always I find it hard to explain. I could be totally wrong, but it's just an innate feeling that I have that this music, these songs just are everywhere, and they're just like air, you're breathing music instead of air. It's a very I know. I think that's what music. That's what connects us to the higher realms. Music, right? It's because music is a very pure kind of thing for the most part. Not always. It can be misused, of course. But I believe that the very essence of music connects us to the higher spheres. Again, I'm just talking here. What do you think, guys?
You're right. Go ahead, David. I want to take over your show.
Tough interview. 45-minute question with a you're right. That's great. I love it.
No, I mean universal harmonics. No, I totally believe in that, and I don't even have to believe it. I know it. It's a universal harmonic, and if you go back to the ancient Atlanteans, they worked with sound and healing and frequency. Everything is frequency, vibration, and signature, and it's a harmonic and sound. So we all know it's associated with music and the symphony and the music of the spheres. So that's my answer.
No, you completely. My entire family, going back in time, were all musicians or artists which weren't as good in music but were artists, or they all survived from their work, which I think is extraordinary. Unfortunately, I think I'm better with my brain, so I'm very good with my ear, but maybe producing or something. My writing never made me very much money, but certainly I was prolific for a good 15, 20 years. And it's just the time that I've lost now. Look, I was gonna say, I made just before the break. I made the reference to Bill Gates and the technology that he was able to install into his own house. You then said it was the year after in which this stuff started with you, and I'm putting a connection together out there. I'm saying it right here, right now on Shiny Side Out, show number 100. It is possible, Darren Hinch style. If it's anyone but Darren, you're stealing my bit. It's quite possible that they'd already had this, stuff in place. maybe, I don't know, but it's shiny side out, it's tinfoil hat time. Maybe there's something in your portable device. Maybe there's something in your computer. Maybe the whole thing all about Windows, all about everything, Bill Gates, Microsoft, this whole personal computing element was all about the frequency enabling standardization, the flicker rates of the screens. Maybe it was all a conditioning thing for this next step that you're talking about, where, once they flick it on for everyone, we're just sort of like robots.
Yeah, it's like a transhumanism agenda.
Yeah.
And of course, you have to think also the black budget program, the underground, they're at least 100 years beyond where Bill Gates is. I mean, I know he's good, and I know he has access to a lot of things that are really cool and techno, but he doesn't have a clue insofar as really how deep that goes. I don't think, anyway. That's my take on it. I know there's too much that he hasn't really had access to, even with his big money. He's a puppet too. I mean, they're all puppets. It doesn't matter how much money they make. They're all part of that program, and they're all subjected to a program in which they are kind of censored in their own minds. But I think you're right. I think they're calibrating society to be conditioned to receive these type of, whether it's an implantation or it's easy to tag somebody. You don't need a real physical implant. I mean, you can tag their electromagnetic field and ruin their lives, literally. So it doesn't take a whole lot.
Yeah. I imagine it would be, when you say tune, the word that you would use if you were building an antenna is an attenuation. So you would tune something to something else, and if they can find your frequency, voila. I was browsing through my phone the other day, and I found an application that shows a whole bunch of its features that aren't written into the operating system. And I've got a Samsung Galaxy 4. I love my S4, and for some reason, maybe it's telling me I do while I'm asleep. Sits next to the bed, knows that I'm asleep, and gives me, broadcast messages. But I found a couple of applications on here. One is the ambient temperature, geomagnetic radiation around me. There's a whole bunch. And to be honest, I just thought it had this balance thing in there, and, something an accelerometer, and that's pretty much it. But no, it's jam-packed full of sensors, and even barometric pressure. It knows your altitude. It knows quite a bit. Now, I'd thought that the data collection from Google was prolific, coming from the voice recognition systems, collectively aggregating all the data to make a better translator or something. And I had no idea that they were going down the paths they were going. Just last week, I think it was, that Google announced that they'd bought Boston Dynamics. That's their robot company.
Yep.
Thinking about the connection with their 22 points of data, do you think 22 points of data about any person on the planet who surfs the internet is, there won't be a robot knocking on the door and saying, are you Sarah Connor? They'll just take you out. They know who you are. You'll surf a computer one day and they'll take you out. I don't know how. But we talked last week, Solaris, we talked about the ability to, we've talked about the remote killing, the remote viewing, remote killing stuff that they tried. And, being able to tune into someone, I think the addition of that tool is a very powerful set of tools they've got at their disposal.
Yeah. And they actually deploy that too, that technology. I mean, they have Voodoo Hitman and everything else, but yeah, you can take somebody out remotely without a doubt. Anybody across the globe. That's what's so. I mean, that to me is like, let's talk about a non-lethal weapon. It's a complete lethal weapon.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, very dangerous.
The one thing that Meki is going to be talking about in the latter part of the show is about the awareness cascade. Now, if just not to let the cat out of the bag, Mickey, but if we're talking if we're talking about something that's coming up, and they're rushing around making all this stuff so that they can control us, do you think we'd be able to bust the awareness cascade and have it for our own purpose, so that we all understand what's going on and they're powerless? or do you think that they're going to have the upper hand? Do you think there's do you think there's a battle there? Solaris?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yep.
Oh, I thought you were asking Becky for a sec. I would say, yeah, you want to level the playing field. And the reason I came forward with the exposure of covert technology was because I needed to balance it out for those who needed to know the information. And I hope that there were good guys out there that needed to have this information. That's why I decoded it and exposed it the way I needed to. So I believe that it should be a balanced field. I mean, if they want to play this game of control manipulation and have a slave race based on transhumanism, then I believe that it needs to be balanced out and that, yeah, we should be able to counter. Absolutely. Nobody should have to go through that. And nobody should be a prisoner to someone's misuse of technology.
For the listeners out there and the people who may or may not be aware that this stuff is happening either to them or a friend of theirs, is number two questions here. This is part A, part B. Is there a way to be able to tell that it's happening to you? Are you able to break it enough to know that it's happening? And what advice would you give someone who was being affected by it?
Well, the advice I always give is don't listen to, it depends on what they're getting hit with. I mean, sometimes it's a subliminal frequency, sometimes it's the dialogue, sometimes it's the live handler, it's the program. I mean, it takes on so many different levels, and there's psychotronics involved, so you have to look at what kind of program. But I will tell you, they take a template of the brainwave activity, and they'll use that template in the underground. Now, whether they want to use that to clone into somebody else, they can do that. I mean, there's technology that'll just blow your mind. Mm-hmm. But seriously, insofar as trying to deflect these attacks, I mean, the signs, the giveaways would be probably feeling like you're being watched and then hearing something. And it's not like voices in your head like what everybody says, like the microwave stuff. No, it's way, way advanced. It's way articulate. It's way beyond little microwaves. And you'll know it. Believe me, you'll know it if you get hit with it, because it's like, you know, right in your face. And it also alters your vitals and things like that. I wasn't able to deflect it very well at first because I was laughing and kidding around. And I think by the fact that I was so open and enlightened, it wasn't like I wasn't protected. It was just I wasn't afraid. And I think that made it a little bit more difficult for me to break away later, because they were, at the whole time I wasn't afraid and laughing about it, they were getting their hooks in me even deeper. So it really got integrated in quite a bit. But I did have my, I did counter it quite a bit. But it's very rough to shake off. I will tell people point blank. So the biggest thing you want to do is if you start to hear it, you need to locate it as soon as possible where it's coming from. You need to do a sweep in your house. You need to check what the satellites, if there are satellites around. You need to do a map and just kind of scan everything, see what's in your proximity. And also, it usually affects people who are have contacts with high-profile people, government, military. A lot of military people, a lot of military kids get inducted into covert programs, and of course we call those my labs, of course. But it all kind of it's a fabric that all weaves into the same thing. It's either MyLab or it's psychotronics, it's synthetic telepathy. And these are separate programs, by the way. They're not one. They're separate programs, and sometimes they blend them in and weave them in.
It takes me back, when you said that, it took me back to a time back in 95. I was in my house, and I swear the invisible man, if there was such a thing, touched my arm. And there was no one there, and I don't believe it was a ghost at all. And I was wondering if they were able to, project a sensation or something.
Yes, they can. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can make it like someone's there physically. They can actually do a lot remotely. Remote influence, remote manipulation. Yeah, they can do all that good stuff, which isn't good. But yeah, they can mirror a ghost, and actually they call themselves ghosts. Mm-hmm. My handler called himself a ghost, and that's what they are. They're hackers, but they're a different kind of hacker. They hack into your head remotely.
Yeah, the real mainframe.
So, and you guys being into this, the technology you guys are involved in right now, I think it would be really good for you all to understand this technology even further, because that will give you a kind of a green light onto a higher level of defending. So, anybody who's into what you guys do with IT or whatever, I mean, you guys need to really be up to speed. If you don't know about this by now, then you need to figure it out quick. I will just give you a heads up.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to take that tip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Be aware. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. You want to have you want to have as many tools in your toolbox, just because. Why not, right? Why not have the information? We don't misuse it. They do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, completely.
And this is really the key. I agree 100%. The information is out there, and information is neutral. for the most part. You know, it's like electricity. You can use electricity, like I said before. You can light up a room, or you can electrocute someone. Information works in a very similar fashion. You have the information, and then you ask yourself, well, how should I use it? And in fact, just because I can do something, should I do it? The answer sometimes is no, you should not. We've got the Manhattan Project, and this is probably a fairly old example, because there's a lot more dangerous technology out these days, which is being used because it can be used. Whereas practitioners, people that have been, look, Solaris, I was taught gun ownership since I was like 5 years old. So I'm a responsible person around the gun. If you give a gun to a person at the age of 30 who has never handled a gun, they're probably just going to fire it around like a crazy person. So again, it's an educational thing, and we have to teach our children early that these things are real. They have to be handled carefully. They may be exposed to certain things, and we cannot dismiss the spiritual side of things, the non-physical side of things, as most of us will be affected one day by it, right? So, but that's something that I see happening. I see, and you're right, it's transhumanism that we need to be afraid of to some extent, because we are driving toward that singularity of man-machine with a vengeance, and I think that's a very dangerous path.
I agree. Well, in synthetic telepathy, there's nothing wrong with telepathy, and there's nothing wrong with synthetic telepathy if you have the right components and respectful people that are in communication. The problem you run into is people are handlers. They become handlers and controllers, and they don't allow breathing room. And that's the problem I had. I had a lot of abuse issues with these guys. So I think that I look at technology the same way you do. I see it as a positive. Look at Tesla. My goodness. I mean, we can do wonderful things with the world with technology. My goodness, why are we wasting time harming people and destroying the atmosphere and, using psychotronic weapons to drive people mad? I mean, that's insane. There's a lot of madness.
It is. But you're right, Solaris. That's exactly what it is. It is insanity. And then I'll talk about that a little bit later, in fact. But you're right, because there's no other explanation for this but insanity. And
Exactly.
well, so it is we have actually a very interesting question from the chat, if you don't mind. And this is around Vacant is asking a question: if you've ever been propositioned into becoming a handler yourself. I would imagine not, but I don't know. Have you?
I think they were training me as one, to be honest. When I went to Maui, and they actually told me where to go, they said, go to a place of your choosing where I can get to you, is what he told me, and that's Maui, and then he showed up. So I would say that, I think they were training me to be some kind of a handler. I don't want to handle anybody. I don't want to control anybody. I'm just really good at stabilizing energy. And I would tell you, I've had people who were being programmed by, I had one Montauk boy who came to me once for counseling, and he was convinced I was an NSA clone, and I'm not. But I think that my handler's energetic was so powerful in me that I kind of, presented that energetic signature, and I still probably do to some extent, but I can't help that, because when you have that kind of an intimacy with your handler, you just kind of take on that energetic field. But now I'm just me, I'm me ascended and dealing with technology right now.
Okay. Interesting. The thing is this, though. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, how many handlers does it take to control everybody, right? I always imagine like
really?
a room, right? Thousands of people in a room controlling everyone. I mean, I don't know, it just seems comical to some extent, because the effort involved is so vast.
Right. Well, I don't think it takes that many handlers. Once they have you engaged with the communication system, once they have you tagged, then they can track you wherever you are, and they don't need to be monitoring you anymore, really. You're already connected and interconnected onto their communication system, so they can find you if they want to. And that's where it's funny, where people go, well, how did they find me? How did they find me? Well, chances are they have tracking devices on them, in them, or around them. I can tell you that point blank. I mean, obviously, you guys know that too. But, I mean, there's no such thing as hiding. You can't hide. You can't run. You have to confront this. You have to just hold your ground, basically.
What's an SA clone?
An NSA clone.
NSA clone. Oh, I see. Okay.
Well, that's just what he called me, because I guess he just assumed that's what I was. I don't know why. But, I mean, I'm very grounded, and they were training me for, things. I was working security and surveillance work out on Maui. I got involved with being on the recruitment list for the Maui Police Department. I mean, it's obvious they were kind of grooming me for something, but that's not me. I mean, I can do it, and I have done surveillance work, and I don't mind doing it, but I'm a lot more than that, I'm a way beyond that. That's like swimming in the shallow end of the pool for me, and that's not where I'm at. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Especially where I've been. It's just like, forget it. I'm not going to waste my time doing that in the illusion.
what were your thoughts when they directed you to a place and you met the person that was directing you there?
Well, I knew who he was because he told me who he was live feed real time. So we already had engaged live feed in real time, and so we already knew who we were, all of us. And they told me where to go, and I needed to get away. What I thought was going to happen was I was going to get out of there, out of my house, which I loved, and away from my relationship, which I loved, and have some kind of peace from the trauma I was going through. And that did not happen, and that's why I left. I was pushed out of my house. I was stalked out of my house with the communication system to such an extent I couldn't rest in my house. I mean, I couldn't. It was just like being in a traumatic space all the time. So I had to leave, and that's when I went to Maui, and that's when my real-time life handler showed up in person, and I met him face-to-face. And he confirmed a lot of things. So, you know, it's an ugly situation. I don't wish it on anybody. That's for darn sure. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, that was great. I was going to ask another one in relation to the hearing. How? Because I can't ask anything that you're not allowed to talk about. But I was going to say, what was the if you can, what was the main feeling in the room when you're trying to discuss this?
You mean in real time, in person, or through the communications?
No, I think it was through the hearing.
Okay, so basically, the energetic was not negative. It was more of a peaceful energetic, but I have a really nice peaceful energetic too. Mm-hmm. So at first it was more peaceful, and then it got more and more aggressive. It gradually escalated to passive harassment and stalking through the psychotronic program and live feed real time handler situation. So it started getting more and more abusive and negative, and using remote access to manipulate my body and my vitals, and to a point where my vitals they were dropping actually, and I was getting concerned, and it wasn't until I started getting concerned and said my vitals are dropping that they started backing off, and they realized that I was not doing well health-wise, that my body was shutting down from the trauma. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty nasty.
What about testifying against this stuff? What was it? What was it there? What was the feeling like? Was there any feeling that there was any trust that you were telling the truth? How was it taken? How was the information taken?
Well, the funny thing is that I talked with my handler in person before I even went into the courtroom. Okay, so he showed up in person and talked to me with two other people. I won't disclose their names. Yep. And told me and said, well, how would you like to talk to a magistrate about this? And I said, oh, well, that's fine, but I need somebody in my corner. And I told him point blank. And he goes, don't worry, I'll be there. Well, yeah, he was there to stab me in the back, basically. And so I did go to court, and I testified against my handler and the other parties involved, who were indeed involved and initiated the assault. And the judge just kind of blew it off, because we were talking mind control and things that he couldn't understand or comprehend. But he was also paid off because it was only him and my handler and me and his bodyguard that arrived. There was nobody else, and that was supposed to have been a public, so people were supposed to have been in there. And it was just, you could tell the whole scene was set as soon as I walked in there to testify. So I was screwed as soon as I walked in the door. But so it didn't go very well, but I was honest and I testified the truth, and it was ignored. And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, I have record of it, and I've tried to move on from that, but I still, they ruined my life. They've achieved whatever they wanted to achieve, but they really took out most of my life, I must say. I regrouped a lot, but they took away everything that meant something to me. Everything I loved was taken from me. So, not pretty.
No, it doesn't sound like a great experience. And for any of the listeners, of course, this is a message out to you that you've got to be very careful. Do you think some of the design of this would be I hesitate to use these examples. I really do. Knowing what we know about the incidences, but do you think it's something that they could do to design a new assassin or someone, take out a president, or do you think
absolutely
that would be one of the goals, that they would just be creating?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind that it's used for Manchurian candidates. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Any type of programming, whether you want it to be somebody who's recruited for the government or a covert division. I mean, this is how they do it. Absolutely. But the thing is, I wasn't complying. I wasn't, if you don't go by the rules and play the game and play nice, and you're not willing to allow somebody to, control, manipulate someone. I mean, I'm not going to remotely murder people. I'm not going to sit there and misuse technology to ruin somebody's life. That's not my style. I'm not like that. I'm spiritual. So, but they are. And so that's where I drew the division. I was like, you guys, I'm not going to be part of this world. It's an ugly, evil world. I don't want any part of that. So that's when I broke orbit with it. But I do know they use it for Manchurian candidates. And you've seen it before with these guys who have these mass shootings who say they're hearing voices. Of course they're hearing a transmission. It's a mock radio communication system that's stalking them. They can't break away from it. It's driving them insane, and it's triggering them to do something violent. And we've seen how many incidents in the United States this past year?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I mean, I know it's the truth. Mainstream media ignores it. It's infuriating because those of us who have been test pilots for covert technology know what the heck's going on, and covert intelligence knows, but nobody's coming forward. So what's this? What kind of game are they playing here at people's expense? At the lives of people? This is crazy.
It certainly adds up to why these people, why there are drills at exactly the same moment as all of the events that have ever taken place. Within the US, there's why the military already on site? Why is all this stuff happening? It makes sense that they're running their program.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind they're deploying psychotronic warfare. I know they're doing it. And some people are affected and some people are not. But I can tell you just by observing people, and I'm very good at observing and scanning people, I can see a dysfunctional patterning in a lot of society in America right now. You go into big cities and you can watch it from afar. So they're just ready. They're like little time bombs. They're all ready to just kind of explode. I mean, and that's why I say stay connected to higher self, over soul, superconscious, because that's the only thing that's going to protect them. Everything else is they're gonna lose it if they get hit with anything that's going to alter their brainwave patterning or in any form of design. And it can be done so quietly. It doesn't have to be done through a dialogue. It can be done through frequency and transmission of energy.
I remember seeing a movie where someone was phoned up, and the only word that was spoken to them over the phone was Rosebud.
Yeah, that was a Manchurian movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And then they just, like they'd been hypnotized or brainwashed into it, they just went and did the act, and they were told not to remember anything of it when they'd finished. So we know that they've always intended on using this technology. We know there's always been sleepers in different countries. They're just ready to deploy if they happen to need something. It just goes without saying, this is a natural progression of the technology along through its life, through the evolution of the technology. It doesn't surprise me one bit. And that's the thing that I think is the most scary part of this.
Yeah, they fine-tuned mind control, David, is what they've done.
Yeah.
It's really become really quite the instrument these days. I mean, they've gone from pre-war with, the Nazis doing all sorts of, experimentation with drugs and different kinds of lights and torture. Now you don't have to take a body into an underground anywhere. You can do it remotely. That's what's so twisted about it.
Yeah. Well, I remember listening to a talk 10, 15 years ago, and I think it might have been the Nexus conference. I'm not sure. It might have been something else. But essentially, back then, and this was a psychologist or psychiatrist speaking. This is 15 years ago. He said, well, we can take you, break you down to nothing, and rebuild you and compartmentalize your mind into different kind of persona, if you will. We can do that now. That's not a problem. We use drugs for that. We can do all kinds of things. 15 years. And that's fairly open technology, I guess. Well, all methods and processes. Imagine 15 years on and the black box stuff that we are looking at. You're right, Solaris. You no longer have to be taken into a cellar, beaten to a pulp, and dosed up with LSD. I think the technology they have these days, they can do it remotely. They can rewrite you, right? They can rewrite you from a distance.
Absolutely, and it's kind of like soul torturing too, because it's really painful to the spirit within. That's my take on it, especially coming from the spiritual path I come from. It's very torturous on that level because it takes away of a lot of the your natural enlightenment. You're constantly being derailed by dialogue or distraction. And what I've seen also today is that there is distraction. I mean, everywhere we go, there's drama, unnecessary drama, distraction, mainstream media and the circus, it just never ends. So they're constantly keeping people distracted. They're chasing paper tigers. They're giving them something to chew on. The whole time there's a bigger agenda happening that people need to stop, take a step out of it and look and see what the bigger picture is.
I couldn't think of a better segue myself. This is actually really, really good. And you're right. And this is what today's show is about, guys. And thank you, Solaris, for this most elegant of segues. We have spoken to you over the last 100-odd shows about a whole bunch of different things, and after the next station break, we're going to go into that. But essentially, today's show, while having Solaris on for 2 hours is brilliant, and talking to her, I was hoping that I would get exactly that out of you that I have been. So thank you, Solaris, for playing into my master plan.
My
but
pleasure.
a lot of things, a lot of things that you and look, listening to your shows and having also watched your documentary, I thought that I would. But essentially, what Solaris has spoken about and the questions we've asked Solaris are going toward the larger picture that we are hoping to bring you. We did something like this at show 45, try to tie things together. And what we're doing today is we will tie together all the shows that we've brought you. And I know that the subjects are very diverse, and I know they don't seem related at all. But believe me, well, don't believe me, find out for yourself, that these things are in fact related. And having Solaris here, specifically with a spiritual perspective, is very, very important, because most of the phenomena that people concentrate on are physical phenomena, like physical manifestations of some sort or another, scientific mysteries, things that people try to chop up and measure, as it were. That's only half the equation. In fact, less than half the equation. There's a vast area that we leave almost entirely untapped. Not all of us, but quite a number of us, and which is the spiritual. I know, people cringe, and they make funny faces and they laugh it off and they go, "Oh yeah, it's not true." Well, no, guys, there is more to you than the flesh and the bones and the neurons, even the electricity that's coursing through your body. There's a lot more to you, and I'm with Solaris on this 100%. We are a four-dimensional expression of a much higher dimensional being. You can think of us as a four-dimensional shadow, or interface, or avatar, or whatever you want, that is interacting with this particular reality. And there's a much higher layer of us. There's more to us. It's almost like you're trying to communicate to a whale through a thimble. Right, so we're the whale, and all you see of the whale is like a thimble-sized section, which is our physical body in this world. And I say four-dimensional shadow because yes, there are 3 dimensions, but in fact we are moving, or we seem to be moving through this 3-dimensional space through a 4th dimension, which we call time. We're going to talk about the illusion of time and space as well. We've done this in the past. So Solaris. It is really important that people maintain the knowledge that they are spiritual creatures, that there is more to us than flesh and bone, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think they've lost that benchmark to some degree, and sometimes it's through programming in childhood and whatever else that happens to them along the way. But yeah, that's really, really significant that they stay tuned into the universal harmonics. And, it's not hard to do. I mean, you just kind of let go of the wheel and surrender to source, the full light universe, and allow the energy to descend into your being and connect into you, because that's what we are. We're a reflection of that universe. I mean, that's us. We are that, and much more, like you were saying. So that's incredible. I mean, it's infinite.
Absolutely, and it's I'm going to talk about dreams as well, and how this is related to. But I think dreams deserve a special mention here, in my opinion. And again, people can disagree, of course. Not all dreams, but quite a number of dreams allow you to visit the real world, as I call it. Nothing makes sense in a dream, right? For the most part, while you're dreaming it, though, it makes sense. When you wake up, it doesn't, because you're once again putting the filter on that you're subjected to in this reality. But certainly when you're dreaming, right, Solaris, as you're dreaming and you're going along and on your merry way, and all the changes that are happening, the scenarios you're faced with, they're all perfectly sensible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can also be lucid enough to change those too while you're dreaming.
Exactly, and that's exactly right. And my wife happens to be a lucid dreamer, which is an amazing thing. I myself am not, and you're right. You can absolutely, and you can interact with that reality. With in my mind is the real reality of
the unseen.
Us.
Yeah,
the unseen. Yeah, I mean the North American natives, the North American original inhabitants, spoke of this being a dream, and dream being the real life. The Aborigines also talk about dream time, and to some extent that is when the real things happen. And all of this is more or less an interlude of some insignificance in our real lives, and I have to agree with that. Again, we'll talk about that a bit later. But Dave, I know you've read through the notes. If I can ask you, do you? I mean, again, this is to some extent my hypothesis, and I don't want to tar Dave with the same brush here, and then people say, "Oh, Dave, you're suffering from cognitive dissonance." Because I don't know if you know this, Solaris, but I've been accused a number of times, which I think is brilliant, of suffering from cognitive dissonance. It's a fantastic disorder, I guess, to have. But so Dave, I want to give you the opportunity to make a disclaimer if you wish.
Look, yes, I've read the notes. I think I'm not going to jump the gun and give my conclusion until the end. Do you know what? I want to hear the conclusion from Meki himself when we get to that part of the show, and just then, Meki, I'm not giving anything away at all.
No, that's fair.
But to be honest, these are evolving. They're evolving as time goes on. The biggest surprise to me, though, is just how easily everything does fit together. And this was the biggest surprise to both Meki and I. I know that because I've read through the notes, and when we both set out to do this more than 100 shows ago, we didn't expect to find what we found. And half of the stuff that we've run into along the way, we had an idea about, but we didn't get the full depth on. And the other half were a complete surprise. And this is what I suppose what this job is all about. We're doing this so that in your chair, wherever you're listening to this, whether it's in a driving around in the car, if you're sitting at work with your headphones on, if you like to listen to this show while you go to sleep, or if you have an eye device of some kind, if you're doing this as a podcast, or you're a YouTuber, if you're a Facebooker, come by our site, Shiny Side Out. You'll get every step of the way. You'll get the half steps. You'll get the quarter steps. You'll hear us thinking about it. You can interact with us. You can do all these things, and I think it's through the interaction as well, Meki, would you say, with our listening audience, that we've also been able to come to and been shed light on things that we didn't understand as well. So it's a group experience. I think we're going through this as a group with a listening audience, and we're happy to share everything we come across, and we may not even believe entirely as we're getting there, but it's only as the evidence comes to light that we can bring you more and more info.
I agree with you, Dave. It was very elegantly put. Thank you.
It's a long-winded.
No, it's good. It's not, but long-winded because there's a lot to be said. But no, and in effect, it is Freedom Slips that has provided us with a focal point for these topics, for these subject matters. People like Solaris and the other hosts, ourselves to some extent, bringing together researchers, bringing together different points of view. And funnily enough, I mean, I listen to quite a bit of Freedom Slips myself, and do other reading and research and so forth. I haven't come across too many things that don't fit into the overall hypothesis that we're going to put forward here. Now, you could say that, that's because it's too wide open a hypothesis. Well, not really. It's not really, and we will explain to you what it is we think is going on. But it is certainly interesting that a lot of people are coming to very similar conclusions, or even the same conclusions as we're moving along, right? So it is not anyone's specific brainchild. Some component parts maybe, but the overall picture is emerging like a rock that is rising up out of the ocean, right? The water drains off it, and more of this rock is revealed as the sun hits it. And as the sun moves across the sky, more and more cracks and crannies and nooks are revealed within the rock until we can make a map of the entire piece, entirely lifted out of the water. And that's really the progress here that we've had for the last 99 shows, where we come across a lot more information, and the theory becomes thicker and thicker and more complex, and of course, a lot more cognitively dissonant.
You're funny, Meki. You are so funny. Look, for those people who don't know what cognitive dissonance is, it's the existence of dissonance being psychologically uncomfortable will motivate the person to try to reduce the dissonance and achieve consonance. When dissonance is present, in addition to trying to reduce it, the person will actively avoid situations and information which would likely increase the dissonance. That's what Leon Festiner's theory of cognitive dissonance is. I don't agree with that and the diagnosis for Meki. I think we are certainly people who are just out to get more information. We don't, as some of the trolls we've encountered, we don't, however, ignore all the information. We actually take it all in and formulate an opinion based on all of the evidence to date, not from 10 years ago and not from a headline in a newspaper. Meki, you said some words there, and I think at this point in the show, just before we go to the top of the break, I have to say something. And that is, you started talking Tennyson.
I did?
You did. And this is Alfred Lloyd Tennyson, yeah? Lord Tennyson, sorry. Flower in the crannied wall, I pluck you out of the crannies, I hold you here, root and all, in my hand. Little flower, but if I could understand what you are, root and all in all, I should know what God and man is.
Oh, that is beautiful.
That is Tennyson. And you said cranny, you said plucking, you said being able to find it. And I think that says everything right there.
Well, I have to be honest with you. I wasn't familiar with this particular Tennyson poem. But I'm glad that the learned Mr. Tennyson, or Lord Tennyson, has a similar view on things, which is reaffirming, isn't it?
It sure is. Look, I've pasted that also in the chat room.
This is beautiful. It really is beautiful.
So it's without being able to identify everything, examine everything, we won't know who we are.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. But he just goes, maybe sort of I'm a reincarnated Tennyson because it took me all of that to explain it.
But you knew it and you found it, so well done to you, sir. You're a scholar and a gentleman.
That's one of my favorites. It's my favorite poem of all time.
It is beautiful.
It is.
What you are. You know the line, what you are, root and all in all. I should know what God. This is beautiful. See, this is the power of words for good. The power of words we discussed last time in magic, we can use for bad. And in these days, we tend to use words negatively more than positively. So let's try to reverse that, guys, and be more positive. Because guess what? And I'm calling on Solaris and Dave to back me up here. Positive energy. The way you project yourself out into the world affects the world and comes back to you in a positive manner. In German, there's a saying, wie du in den Wald rufst, so schallt's hinaus. Which means the way you call into the forest, that's the way it will echo back to you. And that's true. I think so. And
I agree.
It's very, very important to do that. I think.
Yes, I totally agree with that, 100%. Yeah, what you put out, you manifest, so it better be good, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And this is really where the power of thought comes in, which is again a component part of our hypothesis. If you truly understand quantum mechanics, if you at least have an inkling as to what quantum mechanics is all about, you understand the power of thought. and there's a fantastic documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know? I've got the 8-hour version at home here, which explores this at depth, and we're going to talk about that a bit as well. Thought, positive, any thought, is the ultimate manifestation. I mean, the thing is this: Solaris was not assaulted physically with a bat. She was not held down by a gang of rebel and robbed. We're talking about a non-physical assault, which was horrendous nonetheless. So you think about that, guys. This is real stuff. And as I said, this mind control stuff remotely is also something you can't see. It's also something you can't build a wall against. A physical wall I'm talking about, right? You must ward yourself with positive energy. And I'm astonished at the positivity that Solaris is still displaying. And through her radio show, I mean, you can listen to it yourselves, of course, just on Before Us. And the books and general output is positive, even after all of that. Take a page out of her book when you deal with the world, when you can't face your Monday in the office, when you can't, stand the in-laws at the dinner table. Think about the things that other people have gone through and still remain positive.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate that.
It's true. Right?
Yeah, it is true. Yeah, it's been a hellacious road, and people don't realize I blend in really well, but I've been through things that they would never fathom in their minds in any form. Yeah, I can mask it real good.
Yeah, and well, I think it's not. I want to disagree with you there. I don't think you mask it. I think you're actually just being you. I don't think you're putting on a different face. I think you're just letting your true self shine through. Right?
Oh, very true. Yeah.
They couldn't change you. They could not make you into whatever they wanted to make you into. Whatever. I don't know what it is, right? Whatever it might be. But the point is, you, yourself, remained yourself, true to yourself. Of course, changes and pain and all that will take their toll. But ultimately, the essence of you didn't change, right? And this is where their failure is. And this is something that we can all draw upon, because Solaris is, one of us. So if she can do it, then so can we all to lay to our aggressor a greater success. I mean, I'm not saying that we all have the same strength, but certainly we can look for it and face our life that way. And this is the thought I want to impart on you guys for all of Shiny Side Out, past and future. The things that we bring to you are horrendous at times and negative and frightening and confronting. But then we're not doing it to be sensationalist. We're not doing it to well, we don't get paid for this, right? So let's face it. There's no real gain for us to increase our audience by being sensationalist. We just want to bring the information to you, and by maintaining that positivity, by being able to in essence be who you are and let it shine through. And I find it hard too, because I don't know if I'm being attacked or not, but I get these really bad mood swings sometimes, and anyway, but the point is you just work through that, right? And you need to understand and ground yourself, and then think of the examples that we've seen here. I mean, Dave also has faced adversity in his life. Okay, so
completely.
I want to tell a story. I mean, that's up to Dave, of course.
But that's fine. But you're right, and I think every radio host who hasn't been drained, like someone's put a tap in their toe and opened it and let all the blood drain out. I swear, as soon as you become in the public eye, there's something about it. I don't know what it is, but it can drain you too. And when you've had a good show, you've had a bad show. But yes, I've had my life's been a roller coaster. Oh, that's not the end of our show. It's only the end of the break. And I'd like to thank Solaris so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you,
coming
David
on.
and Becky. My pleasure and an honor. Really was.
Do you know what? I think we've all learned a lot.
I think so.
Good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just remember, folks, stay tuned. Another 2 hours. Marathon 100th show.
listening to Revolution Radio.
Oscar's freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at high noon Eastern, you can catch the Mississippi master of the market, the Crow! That's right, be here for an exclusive midday break to all the market action. Join the futures guru himself for a live, in-depth look into the financial forecast. That's the Crow's Market Lunchbox every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here at 12 noon Eastern Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Jess Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week. Yes. But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting. Yes, I see. By a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs. Be quiet. Or by a 2/3 majority in the case of more... Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look. It's just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, and stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs.
Roundtable Live, Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Bring your mind, bring your ideas, bring your voice. King Arthur had nothing on us. Here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Mecky's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Since it is listener-funded radio, if you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button on the site support page. It's on the left in the chat. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run this station. I haven't donated $10 today, and I'm sure I will very shortly. It is something that I like to do. I like to support the station that I'm on. I want you to support our show on the station that we're on. I want you to send that message to the station owner that we providing you good information, timely information, and a whole bunch of ideas we hope you haven't heard. That's why it's a tinfoil hat zone. I'd like to say hello to all the new listeners we have today, especially those driving around in their General Motors vehicles with a receiver-enabled radio. I'm glad you're on board, and please, if you're anywhere near a PC or a phablet, tablet or phone or whatever it is, jump into freedomslips.com, go in the chat room, and become whoever you want. Type in any name you like and ask us questions while we're on air. We really love it. We are actually halfway through show number 10 and 0. 100, that is. 100.
100, yeah.
Show 100.
Yes. Absolutely. And yes, and thank you, Solaris, for spending the first 2 hours with us. I know she's still with us now, which is great. Now, without further ado, though,
wait. I don't know who you are, Brian Killsmead, but we are better than you on TalkStream Live. We are number 6. We are 6th. We're doing great. Better than the BBC World Service as well. Remember, this is show 100. I'm having a bit of fun with it. Also, Orion Radio. Whoever you are, you should come on our show, get better ratings. Just like Dr. Michio Kaku, all the way down there at 30th or something. Good luck with that. Come on our show. We invite you on to talk physics with us, please.
Thanks for the self-congratulatory spiel. But yes, no, guys, it is you, who the listeners, who give us this position and the position within TSL. So thank you very much for doing that and giving us the 6th position on TalkStream Live. You can monitor it as we speak. It is awesome. Show number 100. So it's a great milestone for us, I think. So thank you, and thanks, Dave, for pointing it out. I mean, it's a great permanent record now as we're recording these. So, but let's get into the hypothesis. So Dave and I have been bringing you guys a lot of topics, a lot of guests. We were lucky enough to have some great guests. In fact, all the guests we had were great. Because they all brought something.
Not just some of them.
No, not all of them. It's a turn of phrase. It's a figure of speech. I apologize for it, but no, all the guests we have had, in my opinion, and Dave, of course, agrees with me, I'm sure, have been fantastic because everybody brought something, right? Everybody added a little piece to the collective puzzle. Now, and the show, from its very conception, from its very outset, when Dave called me, it's almost 2 years ago now, and says, "Hey, do you want to be on the radio?" And I thought, what are you talking about? And
that happened a lot.
Yeah, all the time. And we decided then that we wanted to take people on a journey. And I want to quickly give you the background to that. So Dave and I have been interested in the paranormal and strange phenomena for a very long time, separately and then together when we met each other, of course. And we were always invited to parties and dinners and functions and whatever it might be, even corridor conversations, as the entertainment to some extent. We didn't realize it, or I didn't realize it immediately.
At the time, we had no clue. That's what it was.
Yeah. But after a while, you realize what's going on, right? You're there as the entertainment, which is not a bad thing, because you still get to speak to a number of people, and you still, I guess you can try to open their mind. I think Isaac Asimov once said, even if you read a bad science fiction story, it'll still open your mind a little bit. So, I guess that's still a good thing. But then the radio opportunity came along to Dave, and he was kind enough to invite me along for the ride. And we decided, well, you know what? We'll take people on the journey, because we could never fully explain exactly what we believed, because it would just take too long. Right? You have dinner parties go for 5-6 hours, maybe less, and you just can't. And certainly you can't monopolize the entire conversation. But even if you did, you still could not fully make people realize exactly what it is that you believed, because of all the research you had done. Mm-hmm. Both Dave and I have spent decades looking at this stuff. I mean, these are lifelong obsessions, and not realizations that came overnight. We don't just willy-nilly talk about stuff that is fashionable. There's a lot of thought, a lot of reading. Because both Dave and I predate the internet, believe it or not. So we had to read books. But so that's the background for this show. So we spoke about ancient high civilizations, ancient tech, gold, right, Dave, or me? Take a few, if you will.
Yeah, specifically the gold orbitally rearranged monotopic elements. The one that intrigued me the most outside of that is the next one, which was the immortality and extreme longevity. When we did the research into that, to find that there was a lot more than met the eye. And then, of course, my favorite topic, which is still valid to today. And I'm just going to do a plug for 1 minute. Yes, the UFO topic, Mickey.
Yes, sir.
All right. So that was one that came to mind for me, and the next one I think, which is you put this one together, and you did an excellent job.
Yeah, look, we always wanted to bring people the ability of learning, right? So we always try to get something new, and dating, and we're talking about, of course, scientific dating here is a key instrument. And we did speak, had a whole show around dating, absolute dating, relative dating, the scientific shortcomings, radioactive decay, the assumptions around it. In a similar vein was the research that was done around ESP, remote viewing, quantum mind, and biocentrism, holographic universe. So these are all, I guess, cutting-edge science advances, and not just conspiratorial topics, but certainly things that are at the cutting edge of science that are pushing us further and further into areas of knowledge which are hitherto unexplored. And that's really the key thing here, guys. Right? This is not just about conspiracy and mysteries. It is also about the bleeding edge of human knowledge, right? The knowledge filter that seems to be going on, the unwillingness of the establishment to change textbooks because it costs too much money.
No,
right? Remember that, Dave?
Oh yeah, you know what? Don't say that, because we know that that's just a lie. Every year, all the kids have to buy new textbooks themselves, so right. It doesn't cost money to do that. And of course, anyone can put a textbook up on Amazon, and people could just order it themselves. Hey, that's what we could do, Mecca. We could make the textbook for ourselves. We could say the real textbook.
Yes,
the real history. Let's just make a book called The Real History. We fell into some interviews, I think, in the last 99 shows. This is the 100th. So we fell into some amazing interviews when we started looking up the Yeti and Bigfoot. We fell into Tony Healy, the interview with him. And by the way, he's still in Tasmania looking for the Tasmanian tiger.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's down there. And they've had the warmest weather ever. They've had heat wave conditions of 30 plus, which is unknown down there. Also, cryptozoology with big cats and dogs. Also the big black cats. Chupacabra. Dimensional shifts. We did a show on multiple dimensions. So where we presented evidence that showed that there are in fact more than one dimension. We provided that detail to you, and it came partially from the orbitally rearranged monatomic elements, the gold, the mana, mufcut, or whatever you want to call it. And part of that with quantum physics, we marry it all together. And this is something just truly amazing, that when you start to delve into one topic, you think it's going to be an isolated silo, it's going to be real easy, and there won't be much to learn. It'll just be, we're going to do dimensional shifts. Yeah, okay, fine. Then you find out, yes, it's really happened. Or in camera, yes, it's really happened. There are the testimony from all around the world. There's not just testimony from individuals, but from the police departments. There's news stories. There are people who just turned up in the middle of nowhere. We've got famous people who are, saying that they just bumped into people. That's Whitley Strieber's wife, Anne Strieber. She just bumped into someone in a toilet cubicle who wasn't there. Right? Actually, it was her friend outside. This is really bizarre stuff. Once you start on a particular silo thinking it's completely disconnected from the rest, you find there's something lurking in the background of this silo that does connect it. One of the biggest surprises, I think, halfway through this show, 100 shows, Mekki and I off air one day after a show went, "Wow, I never thought that monatomic gold would stretch this far to down here as well." Remember that, Mekki?
Oh, I do. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Take us through. Keep going.
Yeah, so look, Dave is right. I mean, essentially, as we researched each topic and prepared the show notes, because we did want to bring some content to our shows, we found the connections, between very diverse subjects. Reincarnation. We spoke about the mind-body problem. We actually had a whole cycle of shows after show 50 that delved into the non-physical phenomena, right? Ghosts, déjà vu, ESP, and the interesting thing here is that a lot of the quantum phenomena explain perfectly how our brain works, right? So the quantum mind. So our brain seems to be working on a quantum level or within a quantum field, because you can't explain it otherwise.
That's
and
right.
The way information is distributed across our brain is also reminiscent of a hologram. Okay, and then again, the universe we live in is reminiscent of a hologram, because each component part of a hologram contains the entire hologram. Okay, so if you have a hologram and you chop it up, the smaller parts will still contain the larger whole. And we found that there's now a theory around there that states that the universe itself might be a hologram, right? And we spoke about time travel, and we spoke about secret societies, death, why we die. We spoke about why we die. Why do we die? Well, it seems we die because our cells stop copying each other perfectly, or themselves rather. The telomeres, which is the junk DNA, gets shorter and shorter with each copying process. Now, why is that? It's a kill switch, it seems, right?
That's
So there are a lot of things in there, and reincarnation is a very interesting one as well. We brought to you a reincarnation, and in fact the fact that early Christians also believed in reincarnation. Reincarnation is a very widely believed in phenomenon, and it seems to have some very strong anecdotal evidence. When you look at the young children speaking about past lives and so forth. So there's a lot of evidence for a lot of phenomena which is not empirical evidence because of the nature of the phenomenon. right?
That's right.
It like, how do you test for reincarnation, Dave? Do you take it to a lab? Do you chop it up? How do you weigh it, right? So
well, the funny, I've got something for you here, where I've been talking to a local reincarnation expert who takes people to past lives, but in his experience, his documented experience, he has found that children up to about the age 7 still have either a full or partial memory of their past existence. And it's weird that the Christianic world has abandoned that. Certainly in the early days they believed in it, but then it hasn't been so believed since. And it's only through the addition of the paranormal again back through like the late 60s and now back to now since then, where it's been rejoined back in as a belief system. Because before it was, you live here for a while, then you just go back to heaven. That's it, done. Like one shot, yeah? If you're lucky. But this is where it's taken us. And I think that the weird connections between all of these things. In the Death Show, we even took you through what does it mean to be dead? How do people, and over time, how are people measured to be actually dead? If we didn't just say, oh, well, death and resurrection, well, you just die, right? And then you just come back to life and there's the end of the 2-hour show. Right? If we didn't do that, we give you all the information, because this is not about us trying to make the decision. It's about you bringing yourself into a mindset. We're providing the stepping stone for you and the information, all the links through the website, and you can find out all the things you need to come on our wild ride. It's a Simpsons grab, right? But these things, and the only thing that we haven't mentioned in this crazy list of things we've been looking at is the moon mysteries as well, and the potential NASA cover-ups.
Yeah, which all play in, and they're very important. And this is really a very difficult show for us to put together. So stay with us, bear with us, and listen, or let us finish, and see where your mind is at once we are finished. So to speak with Alice, down the rabbit hole we go. Now beware though, and before we start, I want to be very clear on this. This is a hypothesis. It is not a theory. It is a hypothesis, meaning it is a thought construct, right? Which doesn't necessarily have all the hard facts, but some conjecture and certainly some leaps within this. Okay, but they're intuitive leaps. They're not leaps of fancy. They're leaps of intuition and of connections that seem to make sense. Okay, it is our drawing of the bow. So with that, we hope you enjoy the ride. But first things first. There's 10 things I need to talk you guys through, which forms the framework of our hypothesis.
Please, what about the warnings for our poor listeners?
The warnings?
Yeah,
okay.
The warnings, like a Disney ride, please, Mickey.
Very good. Okay, well, be aware this entire show is tinfoil hat area. So we ask you to suspend your individual reality modules, keep your hands inside your personal Merkaba, should you have one, and remain seated for the ride.
And no flash photography.
Correct, because it might take off your head. So what is this framework? Okay, this is the framework, guys. There exists a power construct, a box, if you will, in which we all live. We are all indoctrinated early on to live within that box. This box is not of our choosing, yet most of us spend living their lives in that box, and most of us never know about it. Right? We should take this in turn, I think. That's probably best.
Yeah, absolutely. The box is set up to be self-perpetuating.
The agencies within the box, or some agencies, I should say, within the box, have become privy of its existence and are right now, and have been for a long time, exploiting the nature of the box for their own purposes.
There is no physical escape from the box. There is no out as perceived within our four-dimensional existence.
everything within the box, which we deem good and right, as it enables us to live within the box, is in fact the exact opposite.
This knowledge is the most dangerous knowledge, and in the past, most who purported to know it or were suspected of knowing were persecuted and killed. It was knowledge handed from master to disciple, never written down.
The knowledge at this point in time is slowly seeping into the general population, ever so slowly.
We seem to be approaching critical mass, a rapture-like event potentially, which would free us from the box.
Now, the best way to stop this awareness cascade, the rapture-like event, is mass destruction and mass death, as it has happened in the past before.
One must acknowledge the box before one can think of planning an escape.
Now, that's the construct, guys, right? And you may or may not agree, but that's the construct from which Dave and I will operate from here on in.
You mean we're leaving the box? The box is going to kill us all. Ah!
Do not eat the box. Now, let us begin with the age of humanity, right? Because you have to start somewhere. Scientifically accepted, we've been around for 250,000 years in our present form. It's the out of Africa theory. It's been modified somewhat, but you know what? Let's be more conservative and assume 100,000 years. Now, that's enough time for 5 civilizations like ours or similar to come around. So within the 100,000, because we don't have any real knowledge that goes beyond 5,000 years. We really don't. I mean, you can stretch it to 10,000 with some, with some legends and myths and so forth. Beyond that, it becomes very, very shadowy. So within 100,000 years, you have more than ample time for 5 civilizations like ours, or similar, or higher, or more highly developed to come about. I think that's a fair premise to start from.
Just showing that the last 2,000 years, if nothing else, we've gone through pretty much the whole thing. And we're talking on the electronic interweb thing right now, right? So
yes.
You can see where we've come in only a very short time. In the last 100 years, I think we've made the biggest leaps and bounds. But the rest was a mindset growth to get to that point. But
Correct,
we could have developed some of that technology a long time earlier than that, and squashed it down to maybe only 1,000 years.
Absolutely. So there's this. But having said that, however, and I can say at this point, I think because Dave hasn't told me not to, we believe that humanity is in fact a lot older, lot older.
Correct.
And I know this is where we're going to lose a few of you guys, which is fair enough. However, the great antiquity of humanity does not fly in the face of known science. And I want to quickly just spend a little bit of time explaining what I mean by that. So you need to look at the world as it is today. You look at specifically the shark and the crocodile. These are 2 animals I wish you to look at. So the shark and the crocodile have been around for millions of years.
65 million at least.
Correct, sir. That's contemporaries to the dinosaurs, right? Now, the thing is this: the shark and the crocodile are still a shark and a crocodile. They were a shark and a crocodile then, and they still are that. So they have not evolved into a seahorse or a oak tree.
Not that they know about. No.
No. So my point here is, while they have changed size, or color even, the basic morphology, the basic structure, and the basic species category remained the same: crocodile and shark.
Even a coelacanth.
That's probably the best example, because there is no record of the coelacanth, which is a fish, a bony fish, for 65 million years. The last fossil record that we know of, and this is really illustrating the fossil record, I think, or the problem with it, is 65 million years old. Yet the fish, in fact, unchanged, even the size is the same, unchanged, still swims in the Indian Ocean quite happily off the coast of Madagascar and is eaten by the local fishermen who don't think much of it. The local people who encounter it every day and eat it and whatever, even though it doesn't make very good eating, don't think much of it. It is the Western specialists which were astonished by this. Okay, so that's
because
the thing.
When they found it, they just knew exactly what they'd found. They'd found an exact fish that matched the fossil record, but there'd been no fossils ever since. It was the last. They thought it died out with the dinosaurs.
Correct, sir.
But this
now,
is but it ties in with our fossil show, which says that fossils only are laid down during catastrophes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in fact, 99% of all fossils are marine fossils.
That's right.
Okay, and they don't, they're found in mountains, so there's a whole bunch of geological upheaval. Now, okay, so why did I mention this? There's actually a reason for this. Now, just because something has been around for a long, long time doesn't mean it needs to change. It needs to adapt, yes, maybe, but it doesn't have to evolve necessarily if it reached optimum development.
Yep.
I'm not disparaging the theory of evolution. I think it's a very good theory. Mind you, it's a theory.
Still a theory.
Correct, sir. And humanity, in my opinion, or human-like creatures, and this will become clearer as we go forward, have been around for millions of years. I think millions and millions and millions. And in fact, I know this is where I'm going to lose a whole bunch of you because you're going to call me crazy. Maybe even to the point where they coexisted with dinosaurs, and we'll talk about that in a second as well.
Yep.
Because we have footprints in rock, in stone, of humans, for all intents and purposes, that are crossing dinosaur footprints. Okay, so you say, oh, you're crazy, that can't be true, must be a hoax. Sure, okay.
Meki,
whatever makes you sleep at night.
And that's right, and don't exclude the South American stone carvings.
Yeah, another thing, you're right, of dinosaurs, in fact.
With humans, with dinosaurs.
Yes, yes, sir. So, so we also have other evidence, though, right, Dave, around the quite
of there being olden civilizations. Yes.
Yes.
Look, there's some proof, and it's only come out in the later half of last year, which there is proof of previous civilizations that are some 5 million stone buildings found in South Africa. And I'm contacting a fellow for an interview. I think it should be really good. He's doing, just finally bringing his information out. He thought it was like 1,000 or something, and then he's ended up finding 5 million. And it looks like there was an entire civilization in South Africa, and that they built stone circle buildings, like they're circular but without doors, and it's unknown why at this time. But there's also, Meki, and this is the other one that brings a more recent time. Now, I actually work at work, where I work during the day. There's a lady, and she's from India, and she didn't understand that I knew about the Mahabharata text from India, which described flying machines, ancient weapons, in a time before this civilization. They described the destruction of that period in time.
Yep.
And wars and flying machines. The thing about it was that their gods are depicted, the machines are depicted. I think this is something else. The description of nuclear weapons and the effects of radiation, which were generally unknown up until recently. So you can't just make up a story before you have a technology to match the exact the issues that you have with it, the radiation effect on a human, unless you've actually done it. And because it matches it perfectly, I think that's one of those things. It goes to the basket of you must pay attention to this. This is very important. Rather than say, look, it was just a flight of fancy, someone made it up, and it was not that old. But no, it is that old, and they even found glass, didn't they, Meki?
Correct, sir. Glass in molten sand, as it were,
exactly.
In large tracts in North Africa as well as in India, and in fact, one of the largest perfectly circular lakes is near Delhi, which is another unusual phenomenon, which may very well be a crater. Of a potential nuclear confrontation which lies tens of thousands of years in the past.
And that was described in the book, in the text, yep.
In fact, Indians specifically wouldn't have any problem at all acknowledging the great antiquity of the human race. It's given. It's a given within their cultural framework. It's only in the West that we seem to have issue with this, because we believe in a linear progression and our civilization right now being at the pinnacle, which is laughable.
Meki, I just had the connection here. Remember poor Copernicus?
Yes.
And his fight with and against the church.
Yes.
We're seeing the same thing with science against science.
Oh, absolutely.
Today.
100%. Because it is people, and then we're going to talk about this a bit as well later. People are generally self-interested, and they build careers, and that's all good. And pure science shouldn't have that issue, of course. But once science becomes dogmatic, and people are interested in grants and tenure and having a career, if you build your career on a theory, on a tenet, on whatever, you are very unlikely to put that in jeopardy. All right. In fact, it is very unlikely that anyone else would go forth and put something like that in jeopardy, because there would be self-censorship applied. Because if you were not applying we're going to talk about that as well in a little while, you would then face the consequences of bringing forth an idea, which would be denied and would probably lead to the end of your career. So you're right, Dave. That's exactly right.
We know the dissolution of grants and careers based upon information that changes their theory or dissolves their theory.
Yes.
And we'll get to that a bit later on, though. But I think it's such a shame. I thought we lived, Meki, believe it or not, you know what? It's a tinfoil hat zone, right? Yeah. I believe that we should be able to walk anywhere on the planet. There should be no land ownership. It should just be owned by the government, right?
Yeah.
No private ownership. That's what I think. I think that we should also be able to discover new things, and the new things are adopted for the greater good. Mm-hmm. But we know any invention or any belief system is going to be taken immediately by the military. Can they use it? Given the Nazi history and, going around the world trying to find all these magical weapons.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't, despite me wanting it to occur, I'm a realist. I know that they're going to do it, So, where was the bottleneck event, Meki?
Right. So going back to the antiquity of the human race. So people always, go back to the fact that there is a mitochondrial Eve, and I'll explain what that means in a second, in the human population, and the human race can't be that old, and there's genetic evidence. Well, our genetic evidence is limited. Our DNA is limited. In fact, our DNA is very strange, and our DNA is a lot more closely related to DNA in a pet than it is to a wild animal, which is very, very odd. But nonetheless, so about 100,000 years ago, roughly, it's actually between 69 and 77,000 years ago, there was a massive super eruption. It's called the Toba super eruption, and it's present-day Lake Toba, which is the crater, or the leftover crater, which is located in Sumatra, which is in Indonesia. The related catastrophe is believed to have caused a global winter lasting up to 10 years and possibly a 1,000-year-long cooling period. The Toba catastrophe theory, which exists today, suggests that a bottleneck of human population occurred about 70,000 years ago, which means the entire human population was reduced to 7,500 breeding pairs, also 15,000 individuals, and also triggered a major environmental event, as I just said. Now there's geological evidence for this, and there's also evidence in our genome, including the mitochondrial DNA, Y chromosome, and other nuclear genes, as well as the relatively low level of genetic variation among present-day humans. So we're not identical to each other, but there's a very low level, scientifically speaking, of genetic variation. For example, one hypothesis goes as follows: the human mitochondrial DNA, which is maternally inherited, so it comes from your mother, and only from your mother, and the Y chromosome DNA, which is inherited from your father, coalesce, so come together, at around 140,000 and 60,000 years ago, respectively. So that means there was a mitochondrial Eve and a Y chromosome Adam, at one point, not coexistent, but this suggests, right, and I know you've got something to add, Dave, but this suggests that the female line ancestry of all present-day humans traces back to a single female at around 140,000 years ago, and the male line to a single male 60 to 90,000 years ago. Right, Dave?
That's right. You know, it's traceable and was found during the Human Genome Project, and the results of which are that this suggests that the female line ancestry of all present-day human traces back to the single. And what I think is extraordinary about this is that why was the male much younger? Was that the second male introduced into this? Was that alien? Does it marries up, the time frame marries up with the Anunnaki and the Sumerian texts and the interventionists.
Yep.
Doesn't it really? And that's my tinfoil hat, theory around why that you would imagine they would be both the same age.
You would think so, right? But you're right. You make a valid point, and I want to quickly say, put this in context as well here. So essentially, what you have, and that's why I said human-like civilizations.
We've had a big discussion about that recently.
Yeah. So Dave and I both believe there may have been intervention, and meaning there was some kind of modification that may have happened within our human ancestry. I however, believe that the civilizations are native to this planet. That there may have been, of course, interactions with other civilizations elsewhere. I don't doubt that for 1 second. I do believe, however, that the civilizations have existed on this planet for a very, very long time indeed. Not necessarily all human, or not human in the present incarnation, as if you will, because a lot of the ancient myths and religions and so forth talk about us being created in someone's image. Yeah?
All of them.
So we are like them, right?
Yeah, we were created in their image, and this isn't a religious discussion. This is what each one of the ancient societies say. They came down and created us like them. So
yes, sir.
It's not. Religion replaces, alien or Sumerian or Anunnaki or whoever they are, replaces the God. Sorry, the alien with God. Yeah, if we're created in their image, that's translated pretty well, because that's what the Sumerians say, and that there's no reason for aliens to look any different than us, because we look like them. Remember that they existed first; they made us. And, evolution is real. Evolution means things evolve and they change, usually through random mutations. But the fact that we can, through the Human Genome Project, which we didn't understand until we did the project, we can go back to the actual first mother. And this was huge, Mickey. When I remember watching this unfold as it came around. As they first launched into the project, and they started taking people who have been in that city for generations, taking their DNA test swabs, and doing the tests on it. And when the information started to be publicized, I just thought this was an amazing project, and it did a lot to prove a number of theories. And
correct,
and some of those we'll get to a bit later. But it also plays into the resistance, because some people who have proved their theories alongside the DNA proof have been shunned.
Oh, look, and that's the thing, right? I mean, we have this resistance to new information. Now all of this information, when we talk about the bottlenecking and the mitochondrial Eve and I guess the Y chromosome Adam. None of that means that humanity started at that point in time. Having said that, though, it may very well have, if you look at the Anunnaki texts, the creation of the black-headed ones, the biblical text saying, we were created in God's image, and all these other wonderful things that say that some interference at one stage seems to have happened in the human race. Maybe the human race that was there before us was no longer viable. Maybe they went underground, maybe they immigrated, who knows? But maybe as a race, we're relatively young. Our cultural heritage, though, because obviously someone may have been interfering in our development, might be a lot older.
Didn't we change the amount of chromosomes to from 46 to 42? Was it something?
Right now we still have 23 base pair, double pairs. So we still have 46.
That's right. So we went from 48 with the Neanderthal down to 46.
Yeah. So
and that's what we learnt when we interviewed Lloyd Pye. May he rest in peace.
Yes.
And that was something in his research that he found quite difficult to comprehend. He said, evolution either works or it doesn't. It doesn't decide suddenly to go faster and do things, more effectively or cheaper. There wasn't a company involved in doing this, yeah? Mm-hmm. And that the decision to, flow from 48 down to 46 chromosomes isn't something that's normally found anywhere else.
Yeah, look, that's right. So what happened, right? I mean,
when he discovered it, he sort of fell into this interventionist thing as well.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. So again, we see within our genetic makeup a lot of things that don't make any sense. I mean, we are very weak. We're extremely weak as a species, right? If you the only thing we have going for us is the smarts and the tool usage, but physically we're weak. Our children are useless, and I mean this in the most loving way possible. But once the child is born, it takes years before they're self-sufficient. Not many other species are like that. Most species, in fact, are immediately able to walk and run around and look after themselves to some extent.
So when you refer to weak, Mickey, you're comparing us to, say, a chimp, for instance.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I'm talking about comparisons here with the great apes, most because they're our closest apparent relatives. But going back to the bottleneck component. Mm-hmm. And it says there that our variety was massively reduced. There may have been many more species, maybe blue-skinned, maybe green, maybe some that were one-eyed, maybe some very large, while others might have been very small. We know for a fact that we keep discovering new branches on our tree. Not ancestors, but contemporaries to us. Like part of the human family, Homo fiorensis, the Novian man. Yep. And so forth.
Indonesia and China had coexistence.
Absolutely. Now, interestingly, the book Forbidden Archaeology by Cremo et al., as well as Devolution, highlight the possibility that humanity might be a great deal older, and both works are usually derided by mainstream science, even though, and this is funny, their scholarly qualities are not questioned, but rather lauded. So the books themselves are lauded or praised for their scholarly qualities, for their great research, but the content and conclusions are derided, which is interesting, and it's a bit schizophrenic if you ask me. And now they cite a great many anomalies in the fossil record and show documented evidence of artifacts and tools and Homo sapien bones appearing in geological strata where they should not. Right? Now, naturally, there are also scientific dating methods associated with it, and when the dating is not in line with what the establishment wants, the offending scientists usually are suffering a punishment or employ self-censorship. Now, Cremo and allies did not do that. They went through the records and came up with a whole bunch of very compelling cases for the antiquity. But I would like to make an aside here, Dave, and I know this is one of your favorite cases here, where we have a knowledge filter example, where we have a problem with dating falling outside the established guidelines of what it should be, right? Now, this is important because we need to establish the fact that there is a knowledge filter. So, Dave, this is the case of Dr. Virginia Steen McIntyre, right? So
that's right.
What happened with her? What went on?
Okay, well, I have to say that this was back in Mexico in the 1970s, and She was a geologist working for the USGS who was dispatched to an archaeological site in Mexico. Why was to try to establish what it was they were finding, and all the truths behind it. So she was basically charged with going in there and making this an official dig, which she did. Now, when she was doing her work, she used state-of-the-art equipment and backed up her results using 4 different methods. But her results were off the chart, to be honest. Her findings didn't match the contemporary information with regards to the age of people. What she found was, well, basically a pre-Clovis existence. And that was that life, or humans, existed in the North Americas pre 25,000 years ago, which doesn't make sense because the figure of 25,000 years or less was critical to the Bering Strait crossing theory. And it was the motivation behind the head archaeologist tossing her, the results in the circular file, in the bin. Pretty much. And we call it the round filer. And what's weird about this is, she was given a chance to retract her findings, but she refused to do it. And that's someone who's found something legitimate. You're given an out. But she found it hard after then to get her papers published anywhere. The irony, of course, which I'll get to in a second, is mind-blowing. All right, so what her findings were, right? I wrote this down in our notes. I'm just going to read it straight out, right? It says, this meant that the pre-Clovis people existed, which was putting pressure on the existing beliefs, and that this was not going to be tolerated by the establishment. Pressure was put on her team to lie about, now I saw a documentary on this, lie about the layering and placement of found artifacts at gunpoint. Officials, this is true, this is outside of the notes here, it says, officials actually approached them, the Mexican workers they had digging it up, because they didn't bring Americans down, and the government at the time had supplied workers for her to do this, and they were all volunteers, and they dug through everything. Now they were forced at gunpoint to sign affidavits that said that the whole thing was faked, but of course that's not true. Now, the evidence itself was taken away by the same mob and placed in a warehouse in Mexico, which was unmarked. It was just a blank warehouse like you'd find in any industrial estate, and then unfortunately suffered an earthquake, and all of the evidence was mixed up. All of the shelves spilled to the floor, and it's still underway at this moment, still the sorting out of this evidence. Whether or not it was just pushed over and intentionally done, no one knows. There was an earthquake at the time, and when they finally found it, the people who worked there said it seemed to be an accident. Experts, though, publicly questioned every aspect of the site, the dig, the methods, the artifacts, the layering, but when shown the proof, and this is the thing that got me, Mecca, this pulled me into this story so quickly, and I'm in favor of her findings unequivocally. And this is the single-cell microorganisms that live and have evolved throughout time. Now, anyone who's an archaeologist understands what this is, and they look like a little like a vase, right? Usually round. They're all different shapes. They're single-celled creatures, and when they die, they've left a little calcium shape of their, like their exoskeleton, but it's not. It's just a little shell. And it's left behind. And when they settle into the layers of the soil, when they're redeposited or deposited for the first time, it's them that give away the age of that deposit. So she did perfect diagrams of the entire site, and it was the microorganisms that settled that proved unequivocally that this was the age that she was suggesting. Now, I watched the very fellow who denied the fact that this stuff existed, and he said, oh, well, that's just, relayering, where like a river has washed it out and had been redeposited with mixed single-cell organisms. But none were found. No mixed ones were found, and he was lying. And he denied it because his entire career is based on there no pre-Clovis people. He even denied it straight to camera, but for no reasons other than, it was just faked. He ignored all the real evidence, and that's what we find, Mick, isn't it? We find this whole time.
Absolutely.
It seems odd because she was this is the thing also, the secondary component of this. It seems odd because she was the first to mark out the dig, the site, take constant notes and document everything, including full documentation of the layering, where the things are found, the gridded references in the dig. But mind you, before her doing this, before the doctor doing this, no one did it. They just went to the whole site, sifted it. They dug the whole thing up, sifted it, and found whatever it was, and who couldn't care what layer it came from. They didn't care what depth. They never made any notes. They just dug it up, and there you go. But she was the first to take notes. And her methods have been adopted and are still in use by every archaeologist today and continue to be in use. And it's the accepted standard.
We should say at this point that she's now a florist.
Bingo. She gave up the fight. That was awesome, Meki. Great timing. She gave up the fight to fight the pre-Clovis people existence. She just gave it up. That's enough. But this is the irony. This is my single line at the end, Meki. You look. I know you're looking at it. Mm-hmm. At the same time, in parallel to her dig in Mexico, in South Africa, the same dig was going on, and they found the same evidence, and they accepted that evidence based on nothing like hers. Mm-hmm. Oh, we dug up some bones. There you go. It's all good. Let's carbon date them. Yeah, we carbon dated. Look at that. It's awesome. Yes, we agree. That's the date from over there. But over in the US, no, we can't have that.
Because the site in South Africa coincided with the commonly accepted theorem, whereas hers, of course, was out by a factor of 10. So that was her downfall.
And subsequent to this, they've found that it might be up to 200,000 years ago now.
Right.
That evidence is coming through. So, one day someone's going to say, well, how did all those mounds get built in the North America? The mounds, Meki, the snake mound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's going to question it and say, you know what, we've done some digging, and guess what, 200,000 years ago.
Yep. Look, it's just a matter of time before this becomes common knowledge. Now, this example was meant to show you guys that there's a knowledge filter. There's another interesting component part to this, where the Smithsonian itself acknowledges a problem. In 1987, paleontologist Jerry McDonald discovered a wide variety of fossil tracks from several different species of animals and birds located in the Permian strata. Among the various tracks was also the clear prints of a human foot. However, the Permian strata has been dated to 290 to 248 million years ago. Years ago. Millions of years before animals such as birds and the other animals that were there, dinosaurs and even man, was supposed to have existed. Okay, the Permian age. In July 1992, the Smithsonian magazine had an article on these tracks called Petrified Footprints, a Puzzling Parade of Permian Beasts. Beautiful alliterations here, right? The magazine acknowledged the mystery, acknowledging what paleontologists like to call problematic. It described what appeared to be large mammal and bird tracks that evolved long after the Permian period, yet these tracks are clearly Permian. Now, while it is commendable that McDonald and the Smithsonian clearly acknowledge the existence of these tracks in a strata that contradicts the current evolutionary theory, it is noteworthy that they highlight only the mammal and bird prints and don't mention the human footprints. Interestingly enough, since these tracks have been discovered, evolutionists have not tried to argue their authenticity or debunk them, nor have they tried to argue that the footprint isn't human. The silence that surrounds this particular set of tracks is deafening. Right? Now, having said all this, again, knowledge filter. In this case, the knowledge filter is simply let's ignore it. If we ignore it, it'll go away, right, Dave? If we don't talk about it, it just won't exist. Now, it is very important that you guys realize that this is going on. There is a knowledge filter, and it seems that human race is a lot older in the new world as well as in the old world than we think. Now, there are, of course, problems with dating, and we've got only a few moments until the break. But essentially, the problems that we have with dating, and there's the break. Don't go away.
We'll see you after this break. Hang on, shiny side outers.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
Oscar's freeze. That's your cerebral cortex, looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. The heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
Listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio!
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big-ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning, how to do everything website, all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we doing live? It goes in the toilet.
He wants a challenge. Let's give him one.
The voice that whispers in your ears are the screams that you feel. The mind you cannot defy is the heart that rules mankind. The people who made you are the gods that will save you. And I am Steve Travesty. I am the voice. The ghost in the machine. Ghost in the Machine, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Studio A.
Right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris BlueRaven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Alright, and you're back with Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, it's the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Now, since it is listener-funded radio, if you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button on the site support page. It's on the left in the chat room if you're there. Your donation is greatly appreciated, and in fact the only thing that's keeping the station running. All right, so it's important that you donate, please, if you've got the money. Now we're halfway through show number 100, 100, and we're talking about the hypothesis, which is bringing everything together. We are having a mammoth marathon 4-hour anniversary show, and this is now the last and final hour. Hour number 4. We hope you've been having some fun. You had some interesting information. We were lucky enough to have Solaris with us for the first couple of hours. She was listening in on the third hour as well. And now, Dave, let's get cracking because the information is still there and there's a lot of it, so we need to get through it.
Your time starts now.
Priceless. Now, we spoke to you earlier about just before the break about dating and anomalous dating and finds that were made. Certainly pointing out the great antiquity of the human race. Now, there are, of course, problems with dating, especially scientific dating rather than relative dating. Radiocarbon dating is the most common form. There are three critical assumptions that must be adhered to, and it's important that you know this. The initial conditions of the rock sample are accurately known. That's the first condition. And the second assumption, the amount of parent or daughter elements in the sample has not been altered by processes other than radioactive decay. And number three, the decay rate, also known as the half-life, of the parent isotope has remained constant since the rock was formed. Now, all of those assumptions, if not valid, will invalidate the dating, because obviously, if any of those conditions is breached, the dating is no longer of any relevance, because, if, let's say, there was a faster decay rate, then the sample is out entirely. Now, having said that, it is important that you guys read the Michael Cremo books. I highly recommend them, even if it's just for a different point of view. So please take the time to read Devolution and Forbidden Archaeology. They are not easy reads. They are quite dry, but the information is gold. So do yourself a favor. Maybe even get the abridged versions. Now, so humanity, as we've seen, might be just a little older than we had previously thought. Right? Now, well, not entirely true. Eastern cultures, specifically Indian civilization, as we've mentioned, has no issues with acknowledging the great antiquity of humanity. In fact, for them, it is a very commonplace belief system or artifact of belief that, in fact, humanity is very, very old. It is the West that has largely subscribed to a linear version of history, with an agreed-upon dawn some 6 million years ago, which is the advent of our hominid ancestors, which Dave and I questioned together with Lloyd Pye, because we believe that those hominid ancestors are in fact the ancestors of Yeti, Bigfoot, and Alma, Sasquatch, rather than our ancestors. Okay, so they are in fact the descendants of those early hominids, and they're very interesting creatures as well. Now, there seems to be, and we've discussed, ample evidence in our shows for high civilizations similar in capability to our own, and some may be more advanced, albeit displaying different characteristics, such as different technologies and energy sources. So that's why we don't find iPods in digs. That's why we don't find all the conveniences of the modern age in digs. We do find stone tools, because guess what? That lasts. It doesn't rust away. Stone is one of the most permanent materials that we know, and today we still use a mortar and pestles made from stone. So we should not dismiss the fact that we find those in the archaeological record as meaning that people were primitive back then. We still use stone, mortar and pestles, and stone implements for other things as well. Today we do this today. However, the things that give us a pause and make us think about ancient civilizations having high technological standards are the pyramids, of course, megalithic structures. You remember the Baalbek stones, Dave? 1,000 tons each, right? Massive monoliths.
That's right.
The Inca walls, which were put together perfectly. You can't even put a stamp in between a piece of paper. They're perfectly fitted without any mortar. Underwater structures off the coast of Bimini in the Indian Ocean. Right, and off the coast of Japan as well. The mythological evidence, Vimanas, voice-controlled doors, open sesame, remember that? Flying chariots, Bible references.
Yep.
Also, the similar flood myths across the globe. It is not the similarities, Dave. Do you remember that was astonishing? It were the differences.
Yeah, I think the differences really spoke out. India being the one closest to the impact, Meki.
Yeah, with fire, in fact, being mentioned as well as water.
Yep.
Correct.
And science just I think November it was last year. Science found the crater.
Yep.
So it's been backed up. Every time someone says there's a myth, you don't have to look very hard, and then you'll find the proof.
That is exactly right, sir. And this was the one show where we had 100 pages of show notes, 100 A4 pages, listing all the myths. Now we collated those from the internet, and the work was done by other people for us. So thank you very much. We will of course given, as we always do, a full credit to the relevant sources. But astonishing. It was simply a mind blowing. That was one of the biggest surprises for me, Dave, as we go through this. I have to say. There are also linguistic similarities across the globe, across the both sides of the Atlantic. In fact, Easter Island and North American Indians, as well as some European languages, share some similarities. We had a show about that. Charles Berlitz mentions it in his books, such as Mysteries of Forgotten Worlds, Atlantis, the Bermuda Triangle. He wrote extensively in the 70s and 80s. So if you get his books, please do.
And don't forget the Australian Aboriginal. In some areas, Ra means sun.
Yes, correct.
Another linguistic similarity.
Yeah, and in fact, maybe even pointing out to contact in the dim past, not that we know it. And another, there's some very interesting things, like Swift, that's Jonathan Swift, by the way, mentions the Phobos and Deimos and their specific properties. Their specific properties in Gulliver's Travels, which was published in 1726, when they were only discovered in 1877. So how did Swift know? Old maps show geographical features that should have been unknown at the time of the map's creation, and also an awareness of the Earth's curvature before that particular official discovery.
The thing that he's talking about with geographical features, for instance, Antarctica.
Yes, correct, absolutely.
Without ice.
And yeah, without ice, and very odd, very, very strange. And people will argue, oh, it's not exactly right. Well, if you've got a whole bunch of ice on something, it'll change the coastline. So I think it's close enough, to be honest with you. Also, the moon. Now, the moon, we had a whole bunch of shows on, and very early on in the piece, the moon, quite possibly, may be the largest artifact in the solar system. Artificial artifact, potentially. Ancient cultures speak of a time before the moon. It rang like a bell, meaning it may be hollow. The deepest crater in the solar system is on the moon. There are a lot of things about the moon which just aren't the way they should be. Again, please go back to the show for that. The asteroid belt. According to Boltz's law, which we discussed, there should be a planet at the position of the asteroid belt. All other planets except for Neptune follow Boltz's law, meaning they're at the exact position where the mathematical formula that Bolt put together puts them. So is it possible that there was a planet, in fact, where the asteroid belt is today, that was destroyed in a cataclysm, in a war? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe is this the legend of the Titans fighting the gods? I don't know.
Or the Sumerian text, possibly. The Sumerian text says the Earth was in a different orbit at the time, and it collided with another planet. That's what they say. And then NASA suddenly adopted exactly the same viewpoint. Very funny.
Yes.
But just this week, NASA announced that Ceres, which is the largest object in the asteroid belt, has water. And Mars has the building blocks of life. Both things were announced. So what I think it places another stepping stone for common folk to get closer to an eventual announcement that life does not only exist here, but in fact that life is everywhere in the universe. We know this already through other leaks and information coming out, like all scientists agree that panspermia could have brought life to Earth, which means that life had to exist elsewhere. Yeah?
Yep.
We also know... what did I write there? Which is, we know that has crept
something
over...
about a slime.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, but it doesn't matter.
Stream of consciousness is beautiful.
Yeah, sure is. If it gets cut off. But that's that. Talk about the. We've also in our show notes we have the actual distances, and it talks about the mass. This is Bode's law. It talks about the mass per unit astronomical unit from the sun, and that there should be something in place of everything.
Yes.
And what does he also mention? Planet X.
Yes. Correct, sir. Which is quite far from the sun, by the way. So. But yes, absolutely, which is very, very interesting. Now, so that's speaking to the antiquity as well as the very high potential for having a high civilization or high civilizations in the long ago past. something that we find very hard to believe. Nonetheless, there seem to be some points for it. And these are not just crazy points. These are points that are borne out with some physical evidence as well, right? You mean the 1,000-ton monoliths are there in Baalbek. You can go stand on them and feel foolish. Now, a further component part of this hypothesis is the fact that some members of these high civilizations have survived to the present day. Now, I'm talking about personal immortality rather than bloodlines, but naturally there are bloodlines, or seem to be connections to bloodlines, as well as the same families and groups of people ostensibly appearing in charge of running civilization, and by extension us, who represent their chattel. Now, we're talking about individuals that have survived for tens of thousands of years, maybe longer, to the present day. Oh, that's crazy, you say. No, it's not.
He says individuals.
Correct. People. Personages, let's call them, right? Now, you say it's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. It's not crazy because personal immortality is not necessarily science fiction. There are, in fact, creatures on the planet today, this our planet, which are, for all intents and purposes, immortal. There's the jellyfish, which goes through a reverse life cycle, meaning it goes like, it's young and then gets older, and as it gets older, it reverses and goes back to adolescence, and it starts again. Okay? Single-cell organisms are essentially immortal because they just replicate themselves, and perfectly, by the way, not like us. So if you could stop cell degradation, and we seem to be thinking that's possible. If you can stop cell degradation, then you can very much achieve personal immortality. We're going to get to that in a second. Now, what does it mean though? Now, what does it mean to be born into power? And this is really important because it sets them apart from us. People born into power have a different view of the world, which, while appearing callous, merely reflects the position of power that they hold. The view is that small lives and small people, like you and me, don't matter. And we can see this. I mean, people in power, like presidents and kings and queens and whoever, send people to war. They send them to be killed or kill or be maimed, and without any further forethought to their safety. They put them in harm's way, essentially. That's what they do. And they do that because that's what their position of power allows them to do. Okay? Now, they have strategic thinking rather than tactical thinking, right? Because they need to plan. They need to plan long term. They have long-term planning. And if you are in fact immortal, then the long-term thinking is around centuries and millennia rather than years and decades for us. Now, this would be exacerbated if you were immortal, and human lives would then truly just seem like ants or mayflies. Think about that, right? So
we are the mayfly.
Correct. We are just mayflies or ants. So just to be stepped on, who cares? It doesn't. You don't really think about ants as you're walking down the footpath. You don't even think about it. And I don't think those guys in the position of power that managed to become immortal through whatever means, tens of thousands or even longer years ago, I don't think you can approach them the same way you would a normal human being that only lives 80 or 100 years or whatever. Now, so what are the motivations for the super rich and powerful? And those motivations must have been the same throughout time, because human beings, or the nature of human beings, I don't believe has changed terribly much. So what is the motivation? And now these are the agencies, remember from the framework, within the box that have gleaned the nature of the box and are using it to their own advantage. Now, these are not agencies outside the box. They're within the box. They're here with us. Okay, what are their motivations? Their motivations are control and status quo. They want self-perpetuating stability. They want personal immortality. Right? I get that. Now, how do they achieve that? Okay, this is where we're going to talk a little bit about the gold and platinum group elements. Dave, you can take this one.
All right, no dramas. This is real quick, right? All ancient and modern civilizations revere gold. I mean, that's just the way it is. To be honest, all the gold ever dug up in modern times is equivalent to about 7 Olympic pools. It's not much. Despite all the big mining and everything out there, there is only about 7 Olympic pools worth of gold on the planet that's been dug up. Ancient gold mines, however, that are found in South Africa date back tens of thousands of years. And if you look at the new information that's coming out, with the 5 million round stone buildings, they are located next to the old ancient gold mines. There's something in this, Meki. The ancient legends speak of gods that created man to specifically mine gold, aka the Anunnaki.
Yep.
Gold is liked by all humans from the earliest age in life, as though we were programmed to recognize it and like it. May be engineered in that way in order to mine it for them, and that is the biggest key. I have to tell you that. Why mine gold? Why is gold important? I mean, look, we discussed this in the orbitally rearranged monatomic elements show, which you'll find on YouTube, but that's the key. We can't eat regular gold. We can wear it, but we can't make weapons out of it. It's too soft. It's not good as a tool because it's, once again, too soft, but we can machine it really easily. But it's really heavy, so it's not easily transported. If you were, Meki, if you and I were going to perform some kind of transport of gold, I won't say perform a bank robbery, and had our regular vehicles and tried to put, I don't know, 20 bars in there, the wheels would scrape on the body of the car, right?
Yeah.
But it's way too heavy. It's like lead, just big lead bars.
Yes.
And there's something about that, because you can make lead into gold, but it becomes radioactive. But you know what? You can eat it, Meki.
Yes.
And this is where we go into the ormies, or the orbitally rearranged monatomic elements. This is the thing that I love the most about this. Like, it has the potential, when you eat white powder gold, to extend your telomeres, i.e. giving you immortality. Because it's your telomeres, when, as Meki rightly pointed out earlier on, that as your cells divide, your DNA is replicated and the junk DNA is trimmed off the end, and it ends up eating into your real DNA. Therefore, all of your error codes, the numbers at the end don't add up, and you start to get corruptions. So it causes decay. We talked about mana, ambrosia, mufcut in the Egyptian sense, and it's also the food of the gods. If you get white gold and you want to feed it to someone, the Egyptians would make bread out of it and feed that to their gods. What else does it do to a human, Meki?
Oh, it makes you smarter.
It does.
Makes you, essentially, it has got all. It's like a rejuvenating effect on your system. It also improves your system, to be honest.
The noble metals themselves, there's a bunch of them, things that you can bury in the ground who don't oxidize, like gold. All of these have a different effect when you orbitally rearrange them. It just means that it forgets how to be metal anymore. So we know that, Meki, remember the show we talked about China and how the emperor sent out the troops to find the elixir of youth, the fountain of youth, because they'd stumbled upon a small town where people weren't old. And there was a fruit, wasn't it, Meki, that was growing in...
That's correct. I think there was a fruit, absolutely, yep.
Well, it wouldn't be impossible for the fruit to be absorbing these monatomic elements, and that you ate them and you became young. Yes. So given the jellyfish's ability to do it, the DNA that's found in the jellyfish is similar to ours, because it's human-like. So is yeast, for instance, for that matter. There's 26% of our DNA found in normal yeast. Yeah? So because of that, we would be able to have the same effect. If someone was able to switch on our DNA, where we became young again, maybe juvenile, and went through the whole process again, how ugly that would be, then we would be able to, once again, live forever. But with the monatomic elements, you can sort of level off or peak off at about 35 years old for the rest of your existence, unless you were to happen to, be hit by a car or fall off something. Fatally being wounded by something is still fatal. It doesn't stop that.
Yes.
But this comes in line, Meki, with the vampire theory.
Yes.
We're only being killed with a stake through the heart. You're not going to die of old age. So most of the old ancient cultures place the gods on mountains or in a high place, or they either ingest gold or liquid white gold or a plant extract to extend their life. and they treat individual humans with indifference at best. But they seem generous to us. What's the chattel?
We are their livestock, as it were.
Oh, yeah, so that makes sense. Meki, take the rest.
Sure. Now, Ormi it doesn't seem only important for life extension, but seems to be in combination with mercury, a power fuel or explosive, which seems to have been harnessed by the Nazi and later US and Soviet scientists in covert black ops, right? We spoke about the Bell Area 51, we spoke about the Red Mercury scare of the 1990s and the pyrotechnic explosives. We also spoke about Project Paperclip and a similar Russian program to bring Nazi scientists across after World War II. Okay?
And NASA was
it might even
created
be a
from
catalyst.
those scientists. And NASA was
exactly,
headed off, in fact.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, the CIA was built out of the OSS by the Nazi establishment. Now, it might even be a catalyst, army that is, that made interdimensional time travel possible. I urge you to look at the show or listen to the show about the Bell. Maybe exploiting flaws within space-time or the ability to open gateways to other dimensions or time streams with a physics that is suppressed and not fully understood and lost to most of us. So maybe they're able to do that, guys, all right? So this is maybe how they foster their power as well, by eliminating a threat that occurs before it's born. Just think about that. Now, the Nazis were also fascinated by ancient science and mythology. What did they know? What arcane knowledge did they have access to? Most leading Nazis were fascinated by the occult, ancient civilization, members of secret societies, and funded many expeditions and work groups and programs. Now, it is possible that some of their scientific breakthroughs may represent recovered or found ancient tech, right? And they had expeditions to Shambhala, Shangri-La. They tried to find Atlantis. They went into the Middle East. They tried to find, in fact, they had the Spear of Longinus. Now, the gods, be they of terrestrial or outer space origin, have been around for a very long time, very, very long time, right? So that we've established that. And the ancient ruins we've discussed with you as well show their capability in the past, as well, creatively as well as destructively, right? So, and again, I urge you to go back to the shows that discuss this. There's the temple at Baal, like we discussed at Mohenjo-Daro, the pyramids we've discussed with you, the molten layers of glass that you find in the desert, the radioactivity, which still seems to linger on some sites. Ancient texts are quite clear. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and what about Pumapunku?
Oh, Pumapunku, yeah, which is a very strange place. Amazing buildings and very very finely crafted stoneworks, right, Dave?
And it looks like it may have been an oil smelter, a steel smelter or something like that.
Correct. Yeah, in fact, they use metal clamps to keep their constructions together. A very ingenious way of doing it, by the way, which is also earthquake-proof. Now, ancient texts are quite clear that what seems to have occurred, right? A massive global and even solar system wars, nuclear, other devastating weapons. I mean, the ancient Indian texts are full of descriptions like that. Complete destruction, probably several times, of high civilizations that existed at that time. However, the gods survived and started the whole cycle again. Very much like the Matrix movies. You've got creation myths, previous races of giants who were immortal, flood and other catastrophes, cyclical history, common gods with common weapons and common family structures, Greek, Roman, Nordic, all the same. Do you know what I mean?
That's right, because the brother, the father, sons, the spears, the trident, the sword, the same weapons and the same utilizations.
Correct, sir. And they all went to high places or mountains or even into outer space, just like Ezekiel did. Okay, so that's all. That's the background, guys. Okay, what does it all mean? What does this actually mean? Now, our discussion of non-physical phenomena shows a mountain of evidence supporting the notion that we're not merely flesh, robots, or biological automatons. It's important to realize this, right? We had a show on ghosts. They're present in all cultures. We talked about the Day of the Dead, ancestor worship. Okay, we talked about poltergeist phenomena, ESP, deja vu, right? Non-linearity that is associated, and time fractures. We spoke about reincarnation. More than 3,000 case studies over 40 years by Ian Stevenson. The objection to claims of reincarnation, interestingly, include the facts that the vast majority of people do not remember previous lives, and there's no mechanism known to modern science that would enable a personality to survive death and travel to another body. Right? Now, okay, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist just because you don't know how it works.
But Stevenson has acknowledged that there's limitations.
Absolutely, I'm with you. That's fair enough. Dreams.
Yeah.
You know that you will actually die without sufficient REM sleep.
Oh,
Why?
I love this one.
Right, I mean, it's true though. I mean, we've got a graph added here, and you can view that yourself, which has an inverse relationship between hours of sleep and incidence of death in men, specifically this particular graph, but the same for women. So the more you sleep, the less likely you are to die. So it's a really interesting correlation. So obviously what it means is extreme sleep deprivation will lead to your death. If you do not get enough REM sleep, it has to be REM, which means rapid eye movement, which means you're in a very deep dream state. You must have that. Okay. Now, we've got another 25 minutes or so left, and we need to get through this. Okay, right. This is important. This is the background that we discussed with you over 100 shows. Okay, this is where we enter the tinfoil hat zone. They, the elite, are still here. They are still controlling our societies. They are not dynasties, though they exist as well. These are the same individuals that have been around for a very long time, and that's why they were conceived to be the gods. Because if you've got a guy around that your great grandfather knew and hasn't aged, then you think, oh, well, he might be a god. I'm just being flippant here, but you understand where I'm going with this. We are as relevant to them as ants, individually. However, as a race, we are their livestock. And right now, we are approaching a critical point. We call this the awareness cascade. We believe that once we reach a certain critical number, most, if not all of us, will ascend. And this is escaping this prison. Remember the box we talked about? It's actually a prison. We as a race are reaching critical mass. And it really seems to be purely a numbers game. It's really interesting that way. And it might just be following a natural law. I don't know. Maybe the way lemmings know they have to kill each other when they reach a certain, or kill themselves when they reach a certain population density. But you have this as well with other species. When certain numbers are reached, or when a certain time is up, certain events are put into motion. It's like swarming, for example. Hence, the repeated cycle of extinction and our collective inability to remember any of our past high points. It seems that these mass killings are necessary to keep us here, confined to limited and dulled existence far below our true potential. Okay, so I think once we reach, and the number here, and we've used the Fibonacci sequence, and you can go to our website for more detail around this if you like. We believe the Fibonacci sequence is probably the most plausible number sequence to be used in this context. And the next Fibonacci number that is coming our way is 7,778,742,049. Okay, we are meant to reach that particular population in the year 2020, but I think Dave has got a couple of components to this as well. Now, what does this mean? At this point, when we reach this number, it is possible in our mind, and again, this is an intuitive leap here, guys, that we reach ascension. We reach a critical mass that allows us to escape this prison. In order for us not to escape this prison, we must not reach this critical mass. Therefore, many of us must be killed. And a lot of you will agree with me that there seems to be some kind of depopulation agenda going on. We've always asked ourselves, why is that? Well, is it really just about the resources? Well, not really. No. Because there are enough resources for everybody if it only were distributed fairly. And we could certainly have certain control measures. And if it really came down to it, why don't we just put more into a space exploration and try to colonize distant planets like Mars or Moon or whatever? But the point is, or even make the asteroids habitable, if it was really a population thing. So I don't think it's just about the resources. I think there's more at stake. And so after much thinking, it was the leap of the intuitive leap that led me to create this Fibonacci sequence number and try to correlate it to a date. And as I said, the date looks like 2020, at which point we will reach the critical number of roughly 7.8 billion. But Dave, you've got something else on that as well, right?
Yeah, I do. A few things. The Fibonacci sequence is found in nature everywhere. The Fibonacci sequence also it allows you to estimate, depending on which plant, where the next branch will shoot off from. It's also found, in seashells when you do a cross section of the growth pattern. This is very important, and I think because looking at back, we had to look forward and back at nature to see forward. Yeah, so I found today there's a world meters info world population link, and I'm going to pop that into the to both chat rooms, and so you can look at this yourself while we're looking at it. What's really interesting, this page is fantastic. It shows you a whole bunch of info. One is that the current population as of today is 7.2 billion. We reached, and for Meki and I, so we don't have to go up and down on the page, I've got it right in front of me. Thinking about this, we had 0.2 billion at year 1, and it took us 1,800 years to get to 1 billion, and then from what I could imagine, like 134 years or something to get to 2 billion, and then a very short time, like 54 years or something, and then it was only 14 years to the 4th billion, and then another 12 or 14 again and again to get to 7 billion people in 2011. We're already, now they estimate 7.7 billion in 2020.
But hang on, Dave. Do you know what's interesting with this? Because this is a scale. This is not the scale I used.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, they were giving
at the same time.
Were giving, but they were giving the 2020 number of 7.7 billion. They give you the 7 billion number.
Yeah.
And they give you the 8 billion number, which
and
is 7.7
for some reason.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And the dates aren't spread out enough for that to have been like in a sequence number. They look very unusual putting that date in.
And this is where when I looked at it, I go, oh, this is strange, because I wanted to look exactly for that number, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would have had to make some guesstimations, but no, the side and this side as well. This is the second side now, provides me exactly what I want. Exactly. So the Fibonacci sequence number that was spit out by my formula, which happens to be in 2020, this particular scale and the other scale I used that I found different to yours, give 2020 as the date when we reach 7.7 billion.
Yeah.
It also gives you the date when we reach 8 billion and 6 billion and so forth, and that makes sense, but they give you 7.7 billion specifically, which is very, very strange in my mind.
It is. But what I found also interesting, that when I look at my estimation, if we hit 7 billion in 2011, then looking quite simply, the next numbers in the range would be 2012 7.1, 2013 7.2, which we hit, 2014 I expect 7.3, then 7.4 in 15, and in 16 7.5, in 17 7.6, and then we hit our golden 7.7 in 2018. That's what I extrapolate from the data, but they're estimating a population reduction in percent growth.
Yes.
Whereas China has just announced that they're allowed to go with 2 children. I think it's going to go back again.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, this is not an absolute number. So guys, we're not saying 2020 is the date.
It's the date. No.
So what we're saying is the number to hit is the next Fibonacci sequence number, which is 7.778 billion. So that's the number, right? When we, in our opinion, that is the awareness cascade critical number at which we can experience potentially rapture. Maybe that's what the Bible was referring to, and I don't know why. I can't give you a reason. There's no scientific explanation. Maybe our combined mind potential, maybe the akashic record, maybe the collective unconscious is big enough to, break out of this prison. I don't know. Now,
and what does break out of the prison mean? That's
exactly.
That's where we're getting to.
Well, this is all background, guys. So why is it that way? This is the crux, the core, the center of the hypothesis. We are in fact prisoners inside our own skull. Our prisons are mobile, and most of us have no inkling that we are in fact in a prison. Our bodies are the prison. They provide the physical limitations of this experiential reality. We are in flesh prisons. During our dream time, and this is why this is important, especially REM, we escape this reality and wander through the actual world. Many cultures believe, and have believed, that we dream alive and live a dream. We can liken dreaming to a prisoner's day release or walk in the yard, which is necessary for us to survive. We cannot survive without REM sleep. Why? What's the evolutionary advantage of REM sleep? I don't know. In fact, what's the evolutionary advantage of sleep in the first place? Having said that, right? So we are prisoners, physical prisoners, in this limited reality. So we have limitations in this physical body. When we dream, we do not. because we escape it. And believe it or not, and I've been promising this for a long time, this is the final secret of the Freemasons. Something they may have learned from the Cathars or the Templars or even older mystery schools. Once you make it to the 34th degree, you will learn that the great adversary is the one or group that built this prison, this reality, this universe, or is using this reality as our prison. The great work of the ages is our attempt to escape or turn this prison into a fit place to live. That was what was driving the French and American revolutions, believe it or not, to make this a livable place. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, right? These are all humanistic principles which are meant to make this a better place to live in. Now, the same kind of secret traditions also exist in the East, Asia by this, and were handed down from master to pupil until the present day, when permission was given to more widely disseminate this dangerous knowledge. Make no mistake, everybody who knew this at one stage was tried to be eliminated. The Cathars, the Bogomils, the Manichaeans, the Taoists. Ooh, spooky stuff. Let's go a step further. What if this universe, prison, were an illusion? What if time and space were illusions? There is no time or space. Remember quantum entanglement?
That's right. It's like being on the holodeck that we've scratched at the surface to discover nothing is what it seems. Physics breaks down at this point where nothing, everything, and anything is possible.
Right. Entanglement seems to indicate that distance is an illusion. Now, if you do one thing to this particle, the entangled particle, no matter how far away, will have the same thing happen to it at that instant. Now, as time is motion through a given space, then too, time must be an illusion, as there is no space.
That's right.
Not the way we perceive it, right?
No, you just said there is no space. Remember, Neo said, remember, there is no spoon.
Yeah.
And the Matrix movie is bang on. I tell you, there's a couple of documentaries to do with just how close that is.
Just a quick point before you go on with the quantum entanglement. It is now that this knowledge is seeping into our unconscious. The Matrix movies, art imitating life, art predicting life, art being like life. This is happening now. The Matrix movies are just one expression of that. Sorry, go on.
No, that's fine. They're all making a point. So remember, quantum entanglement, if you didn't catch the show, experiment on the fiber optic network in Europe showed that laser light being injected into the middle of the fiber run and sent in two different directions using a prism. At one end of the run, they polarized the beam, which in turn corrupted the signal at both ends. Put bluntly, this is the best description I can come up with, right? Put bluntly, if I hold up a polarizing filter like a pair of sunglasses to starlight, get this, some poor schmo on the other side of the cosmos will see the light becoming polarized.
Mm-hmm.
The light is paired. It's the light I'm seeing, someone else is seeing too, and if I do something to it, it's getting done to them too.
Yep.
And I'm going to just say that my esteemed friend who's sitting next to me, the other Dave, said maybe that's why stars twinkle.
Ah.
That is completely possible. Go, Mac.
Now, absolutely. Now, can any of this be true? There's actually a lot of evidence pointing to this. In fact, also to the holographic universe principle, which means that all the information about the universe is contained in every piece of the universe. All right, that's the nature of the hologram. Okay. Now, this is the nature of the prison we're living in, guys. Okay. It is becoming more and more evident that we don't fully understand the nature of reality, that there are massive flaws with our understanding, that it isn't as real as we think it is, that our preconceived ideas and notions of solidity of time and space are in fact incorrect. Okay, there is no time and space, not really. I mean, to us it seems that way, but hey, who knows? But it doesn't seem to bear, from a purely scientific, rational point of view, factual point of view, everything we know is wrong. Now, but no matter what the nature of the prison is, the elite that is controlling us is aware of this. Okay, and they're using it to their advantage. And that's why they're staying in power, that's why they're immortal, that's why they're having such a good time. But they are prisoners just like we are. except that they have broken the cycle of reincarnation and past life amnesia. Because what happens is, when we die, we just reincarnated into the same prison over and over and over again. There is ample evidence for reincarnation. Ample. And for us not just being flesh robots, by the way, right? And some of us can remember our past lives. Most can't. Some can. There's evidence for that, though. Okay, we were told there's like 3,000 case studies over 40 years just by this one guy. There's other case studies. Now they know what is going on, and they're choosing to remain here. Maybe they have become institutionalized. Maybe they're afraid to relinquish their positions of power and privilege. You know, some people say, "Oh, I'd rather be a king in hell than a beggar in heaven." I'm reversing the proverb here. Okay. Now think of the guy in the Matrix who chose to go back to the Matrix in exchange for fame and wealth. That's exactly where they are at. He will know that it's all a dream, it's all not real, but he doesn't care because his brain will not be able to tell the difference. It's a steak. I know it's not real, it's not here, there's no steak, there's no spoon, there's no time, there's no space, but I am happy because my brain will accept the illusion. Everything that appears to be good in this life is in fact not. We've said this. What does that mean? Ideally, we should curb all of our desires as they tie us to this place. We should be able to live completely free of any desire. Food, wealth, physical pleasure, beauty. In short, anything that makes you feel good to be here physically is designed to tie you to this place. Most faiths, monks, ascetic practitioners, holy people, Buddhas, and so forth do practice austerity and deprivation to achieve enlightenment. Right? They do that. Having children, and this is horrible, right? But it means just having more prisons for our souls. None of the material things we cherish mean anything. Right? You die, and this is really the great equalizer in this prison. When you die, everything that you had is gone, and you start again. And no matter how good your life was, you start again, and there's pain. Okay? Think of the chains that Scrooge's partner from a Christmas Carol wears around his body as he visits him on his first night. He says he forged those during his lifetime. We are doing the same thing to ourselves. That's exactly what we're doing. We worry about stuff that is really not worth worrying about. All of the sages, all of them, and wise men say the same thing, all of them. Interestingly, that was exactly the tenet of the Cathars. Even more interestingly, the church, not yet Catholic at that time, initiated a crusade against those people of the Languedoc area, killing most of the perceived heretics. The phrase "kill them all and let God sort them out" was coined during that crusade. Okay? Now, there's a whole bunch on the Cathars which we discussed with you at some other time, but the point is they were Christians, they believed in reincarnation, all right? They also believed that we should live good lives. They didn't believe in hell, right? They believed that this physical world was hell, okay? That this was the world created by the great adversary, okay? And this is similar to what the Masons believe now, so I believe that's where they got their view from. And it was also the Catholic view that the Catholic Roman Church or the Roman Church had corrupted the original scriptures, right? And their thoughts, though, have survived to this day. The Cathar thought. Interestingly enough, the Templars were not helping them during the Crusades. They stayed neutral. Now the Cathars are regarded as dualistic. They believe in two equal and comparable transcendental principles. There's God, the force of good, and Satan, or demiurge, and that's the evil. And the physical world was evil and was created by the demiurge, the Rex Mundi, the king of the world, and it encompasses everything that was corporeal, chaotic, or powerful. Now, if we cast our mind back to just a good discussion with Solaris earlier, there's the transcendent reality, the lighter reality, the higher frequency reality, where we're not tied down by a heaviness that we carry here with us. Okay, this is really important. And both men and women could be in the I guess the preacher role within the Cathars. Okay, now the prison that we're in is ingenious. No matter what you accomplish, it is all taken away in your next life. You must start again. Not only that, this reality is full of pain and suffering, and the more we love here, the more we suffer. That's a contradiction, but it's true. The more you care about people, the more you will suffer, because you bind them to their fate, and when something bad happens to them, you suffer through that as well, right? Loss and war and violence. That very violence of this existence, I believe, is damaging our essence. It is what is reflected in our karmic debts. We need to break the cycle of violence, revenge, feuds, and counterattacks and hate. All who come close to knowing the truth are killed, have been killed in the past. The Cathars, the Essenes, the early Christians, Jesus, and so forth, right? So what's the answer? Right? What's the answer? The answer is love. Right? Everybody. Our cruelty and greed and ignorance have made this prison hell. That was our choice. It's a prison, now it's hell. However, some of the sages and Buddhas return to help us turn this prison into paradise. In the end, it's our choice. Escape from this prison must not be the only answer. It seems we can turn this place into paradise as well. I'm using paradise here in the sense of home, right? This place can become our home. We do not know why we are in this state of existence or who put us here or why. Many explanations are possible. Who knows? I don't know. Right? I don't want to give any here because I have no clue. I don't know why we're in prison here. It just feels like we are. That's the intuitive leap that we spoke about. There are a lot of intuitive leaps here, guys. Okay, there's some evidence. Certainly, the facts, the background, they're all there. The conclusions or analysis is entirely ours, and it doesn't have to be yours. But bear in mind that this is 25 years of thought on the subject, and there's nothing really that we've come across that would contradict any of this.
You still with me, Mackie?
I can't believe we made it through.
Yeah, that's right. So you know what? If you can't see it, Mackie, I am drawing a box.
Okay.
Right, and we did make it through. We made it through all of the show notes. We've done 100 shows. Mackie, how awesome does it feel?
Feels pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm exhausted.
Do you know what? The only thing that we've put it all together, I have to say. Right? We've put it all together, and the essence here, yeah, is love. Let's break that, yeah. Let's break the hate. Let's break all of this, and I think it's very important. If there was one message I could give to everyone, and it's try to remember the next time around. Yeah, let's get Buddhist on it. I think that outside of what we've brought you so far is a continuation, because we haven't finished. This is nowhere near the end.
Oh, no. This is an evolving theory. I mean, we've laid the foundation. Now you are where we are.
Exactly. And everything we find out, it's new to us, it'll be new to you too. Mm-hmm. We have coming up, we've got a lot of really good interviews with people. I know that Jason Martell is now locked in. How awesome is that?
Awesome.
Right? And a lot of what he's going to be talking about is going to be aligned with what we've talked about. He brings the ancient technology. He brings because he's done a lot of research. He even made the light bulb, Mackie, that they used in the Egyptian tombs.
Really?
Yeah, he made one, and it works.
Wow.
Remember, they didn't find any carbon on the ceiling in the pyramids.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Which meant they didn't.
Now carbon would have been there if they had used open flames like torches, of course.
Exactly. He brings with him onto the show. He brings the Anunnaki, the Sumerian text and translations of, and the interventionist theory. He brings so much good information, and he's got he's on the new series, of course, of Ancient Aliens. He's got a whole thing coming, and it's going to be awesome. I can't wait for that show coming up. I've enjoyed this so far, Mackie. It's been one of the most entertaining things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah,
is being able to bring this to everyone instead of talking blue in the face at a party, and those people going home, to bring this full circle with what you talked about this morning. It's this morning, it feels like a whole day. Show earlier on, and that is that these people that would go home at the end of the party would be like watching TV. They finish watching the TV, they don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that we've got. This tool we've got here, this radio show, our show, is all about the continuing interest in this topic and making it roll and finding out more and having people actually interested in what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I have to say, for those people watching on YouTube, or in hindsight, in the future, coming from the past, we are, and we're telling you to attempt to escape the box. We know when it is possibly coming. Enjoy this. We'll see you for show 101 next week. 101. See you guys.
Awesome.